Chapter 1459. Reverse. Rumble. Time and space receded from the white-bone Taoist body. The aura of time was far too mysterious. His self-destructed body gradually returned to normal. However, what happened next left everyone speechless with shock. No! Why is this happening? White-bone priest had been howling in pain. He didn't want to give up, because his flesh and blood were withering. His black hair was turning gray, and his skin was wrinkled. Even his back, which was straight and tall, began bending. Time was like a blade. Each blade would age a person. It could sever the past and destroy the future. It could also lead living beings to death. In the blink of an eye, the white-bone Taoist had turned into a dying old man. His hair and teeth were falling off, and his strong body was melting away. He looked like a dried corpse, which was a horrifying sight to behold. However, this was not the end. Under the attack of the power of time, the white-bone Taoist's old, mummified body continued to wither until all of his flesh and blood disappeared. Only a set of pale white bones remained. White bones. True white bones. A set of white bones that were as white as paper. The soul fire flickered violently within the white bones. This was where the white-bone Taoist's soul was. As long as his soul was not destroyed, he could possess another body and be reborn. Unfortunately, he would not have the chance to do so. Aren't you called the white-bone Taoist? Your current appearance suits your Taoist name. Today, let me send you on your last journey, Yi Xian said in a low and sinister voice. Yi Tian, you will die a horrible death. Even if my soul disperses, I will turn into a nightmare and curse you for all eternity. The white-bone Taoist's soul was viciously cursing. His shrill voice rang out in all directions, causing everyone to shiver in fear. This proved that the white-bone Taoist's hatred for Yi Xian had reached an indescribable level. You won't have the chance. Yi Xian's hands glowed. This was a terrifying light that buried the heavens. Under the terrifying rubbing of his hands, the white-bone Taoist was directly reduced to ashes. Even his soul was destroyed in a miserable howl. Whoosh whoosh. The wind was blowing. This was the cold wind of heaven and earth, blowing away the bone powder that filled the air. A sempiternal expert had actually vanished into thin air today. It could be said that Yi Xian had crushed his bones and scattered his ashes, leaving no trace behind. This? The three devils were speechless. In the end, they didn't dare to save the white-bone Taoist and lost their chance to turn the tables. At this moment, they looked at Yi Xian with panic in their eyes. They were afraid that they would be the next white-bone Taoist. As for the two sect masters, they were even more unbearable. Ever since the Sun sect master died miserably on the spot, the white-bone Taoist followed closely behind. The two immortals had both died miserably in Yi Xian's hands, causing the two sect masters to kneel on the ground and not dare to stand up. Kneel! Suddenly, Yi Xian's gaze landed on the three devils. His eyes were emotionless. Although there wasn't any terrifying aura around him, his gaze alone was enough to make the three devils' hearts tremble. Dao friend, what do you mean by this? Scarlet which forced herself to remain calm, but her heart was already trembling. Kneel! The two simple words resounded between heaven and earth. Yi Xian's eyes became even more emotionless and indifferent. His gaze was like stagnant water, causing the three devils to feel extremely uneasy. Clearly Yi Xian wanted them to submit. If they didn't, they would end up like the white-bone Taoist and the extreme young leader. Yi Xian didn't try to hide it at all. For 30,000 years, he didn't care about anything and allowed the four devils to stir up trouble in the celestial court. Now that Yi Xian had reached the Dao integration stage, he finally made a move and forced the three devils into a desperate situation. They could either submit or die. There was no other choice. The three devils' expressions changed. They could completely understand Yi Xian's thoughts. However, they knew that they had to make a choice. Otherwise, they would definitely end up in an extremely miserable state. Not to mention Yi Xian's battle prowess, the two sect leaders who were kneeling on the ground would probably immediately attack them if Yi Xian gave the order. With Yi Xian involved, they definitely couldn't leave this place alive. Yi Xian didn't make a move. However, Once he made a move, he wouldn't leave any leeway. He wouldn't give the three devils any chance to resist. This time, the three devils had suffered a huge setback. They finally understood Yi Xian's methods. Green Ghost greets the sect leader. From now on, I'm willing to be at your beck and call. I won't dare to betray you. Suddenly, Green Ghost took 3 steps forward and knelt in front of Yi Xian. He even kowtowed 3 times to Yi Xian to express his submission to Yi Xian. Crimson Lotus greets the sect leader. Crimson Lotus Demoness instantly woke up. She immediately knelt and kowtowed to Yi Xian. Meanwhile, Crimson Lotus Demoness secretly hated himself for being ignorant. He actually allowed the two to make a choice before him. Crimson Lotus greets the master. Crimson Lotus Demoness was even more shameless. He directly knelt and called Yi Xian master. This also made Green Ghost and Crimson Lotus secretly curse Crimson Lotus Demoness for being shameless. I really like smart people. The 3 of you are very smart. You also made the best choice. Yi Xian nodded approvingly. Pass down this sect leader's decree. Gather all the sect's disciples here for a discussion. Yi Xian lightly said. The 2 sect masters hurriedly accepted the order. They only heard the sound of 81 bells ringing out from the hundreds of millions of miles of Mount Han. Countless rainbow lights shot towards Snow Bamboo Peak. At the peak of the Snow Bamboo Peak, Yi Xian sat in the meditative pose in the sky while Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen stood to his sides. The 5 Undyings bowed below. Below them were the members of the celestial court. From disciples to elders, there were more than 1 million of them. At this moment, all eyes were on Yi Xian. However, without exception, their eyes were filled with reverence and devotion. This was the respect for the strong. Yi Xian had killed 2 Undyings and completely suppressed the internal strife within the celestial court. He even made the 5 Undyings bow their heads and firmly grasped the power of the celestial court in his hands. At this moment, Yi Xian was the true sect leader. Greetings, sect leader. Like a tsunami, the heaven and earth shook. The black mass of celestial court members knelt down. Their voices came one after another. Rise, Fatso Huang said. Thank you, sect leader. The members of the celestial court stood up one after another. However, the world became so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was waiting for Yi Xian to speak. The northern region is in chaos and a sea of blood. All of you are members of the celestial court. This sect leader will lead all of you to sweep through the northern region. Yi Xian's voice came through the world, causing the members of the celestial court to listen attentively. However, all of their hearts were trembling because what Yi Xian was talking about was something they had never dared to imagine. Sweep through the northern region, stand on equal footing with the 3 sects of the northern region, and even become the king of the northern region, truly ruling over a region. And Yi Xian wasn't just talking. Following that, the 5 Undyings passed on their teachings. In the end, Yi Xian passed on his teachings for 3,000 years and distributed a large amount of resources to the members of the celestial court. Only then did the internal meeting of the celestial court come to an end. The so-called people's hearts and loyalty were the combination of benefits. Yi Xian already had the power and influence. All that was left was to buy people's hearts. And this meeting of the celestial court was the process of buying people's hearts. It was also the process of making the entire celestial court united. Only then could it become a sharp blade that could cut through all obstacles for him to use. 5,000 years later, this meeting of the celestial court ended. Only Yi Xian, Fatso Huang, and Gu Beichen were left on Snow Bamboo Peak. Chapter 1460. After 5,000 years of teaching, the strength of the celestial court had reached a new level. However, Yi Xian did not feel any sense of belonging to the so-called celestial court. At most, he would just use it. The celestial court was just a name given by the 6 sections. It was also a commemoration of the time in the Eldritch world. Yi Xian wanted to step into the undying realm more than anything else. He was just a passerby in the North region. Eventually, he would have to return to the Grand Central Territory, where his real battlefield would be. Ultimate seeds, heaven-defying evildoers, great sects, ultimate orthodoxies, the most powerful throughout history, forbidden characters, there were too many things waiting for him in the Grand Central Territory. His lifelong friend, Liu Bai, was also waiting for him there. He did not know how Liu Bai's cultivation was after so many years. Had he still stepped into the undying realm? Yi Xian admitted that his cultivation speed was extremely fast. However, he firmly believed in one thing, and that was that Liu Bai would definitely not fall behind him. This was because with Liu Bai's unprecedented talent, he would definitely be far ahead of him. Yi Xian's thoughts flew and his gaze was deep. He sighed in his heart as the figure of the Lord of Extreme Love flashed through his mind. He didn't know how this woman was doing right now. In fact, Yi Xian really wanted to return to the Grand Central Territory. However, the time was not ripe yet. He had to get the heaven-shattering cauldron first and break into the undying realm as soon as possible. Only then would he have the confidence to return to the Grand Central Territory. Yi Xian suppressed his troubled thoughts and let out a long sigh. Gu Beichen and Fatso Huang's voices sounded at the same time. Sir, after this battle, I'm sure these undying realm experts will not dare to rebel again, Fatso Huang said with a smile. You killed 2 undying realm experts in a row and intimidated the other 5. They have already experienced your power. Even if they were given the courage, they would not dare to rebel again, Gu Beichen said with a smile. Yi Xian said indifferently, originally, they all deserved to die. The Sun Master and the White Bone Taoist were merely scapegoats. However, now is the time to use people, so I spared their lives. After all, the final battle is about to begin. These 5 immortals will be of great help to me. Mister, you finally stepped into the Tao integration stage and are only a step away from the immortal stage. It won't be long before you return to the Grand Central region, right? Fatso Huang asked. Undying? Yi Xian's eyes were deep, and his gaze was slightly heavy. After a long time, he muttered, how could it be so easy to reach the immortal realm? Cultivation resources, personal enlightenment, and immortal divine tribulation. If the immortal realm can be easily entered, how can this realm be called a sect master? Yi Xian sighed and frowned. Yi Xian, who had stepped into the Tao integration stage, had already seen the barrier in front of him. This was the barrier of the immortal realm. This barrier was firmly shut like an ancient stone door, and it required a great deal of strength to open it. Yi Xian had just entered the Tao integration stage. Although his battle strength had soared again, there was still a long way to go before he could enter the immortal realm. It was impossible for him to enter the immortal realm in a short time. It was extremely difficult to enter the immortal realm. Otherwise, it would not be called a sect master, and it would not be the top figure in the chaotic world. Moreover, Yi Xian was deeply aware of one thing. He was different from others. When others entered the immortal realm and faced the immortal divine tribulation, they might have a slim chance of survival. However, when he faced the immortal divine tribulation, he would definitely die. This could be seen from his past experiences of crossing tribulations. After all, Yi Xian's battle strength was so terrifying that he could even defeat people who were 1 realm higher than him. It was because his foundation was too deep and terrifying. Therefore, his immortal divine tribulation must be very terrifying. However, danger and opportunity coexisted. Although Yi Xian's tribulation was fatal, every time he succeeded, his battle strength could be said to be invincible in the same realm. This was also the reason why Yi Xian was so powerful. According to Yi Xian's calculation, if he cultivated step by step normally, it would take him tens of millions of years to break through the immortal realm. However, Yi Xian could not wait for tens of millions of years. Moreover, Yi Xian could feel that his immortal divine tribulation was very terrifying. He had to be fully prepared to face the immortal divine tribulation. Moreover, Yi Xian had to do his best to shorten the time. After all, he had the tribulation transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art. He had an incomparable advantage in terms of cultivation improvement. However, these were not enough. Yi Xian could vaguely feel that if he wanted to break through the immortal realm and face the immortal divine tribulation, he would need unimaginable cultivation resources. Just look at the 5 sect masters. They had used almost half of the cultivation resources of the six sects to break through to the immortal realm. Moreover, only 3 of them succeeded in crossing the tribulation. The other 2 died tragically under the immortal divine tribulation. According to Yi Xian's estimation, if he wanted to cultivate to the great circle of the Tao integration realm and face the immortal divine tribulation, he would need 10 or even 100 times more resources than the 5 sect masters. The remaining cultivation resources of the 6 sects were just a drop in the bucket. Therefore, only by plundering the resources of the northern region and using the Calamity Immortal technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art to devour some immortal realm cultivators would he be able to push Yi Xian's cultivation to the peak in the shortest amount of time possible and truly welcome the immortal divine tribulation. However, Yi Xian had just entered the Tao integration realm. He knew that he could not be too anxious. He should stabilize his Tao integration realm first and then carry out his plan. Moreover, this was only one of the plans. What Yi Xian really valued was the heaven-breaking cauldron. Only by obtaining the heaven-breaking cauldron and comprehending the heaven-defying techniques hidden in it, he might be able to push himself into the immortal realm and even easily pass the immortal divine tribulation. This was the most important thing. Yi Xian's thoughts were running wild. He had already made many decisions in his heart, but he needed to take them step by step until he achieved his goal. Time was the most ruthless. In the blink of an eye, 50,000 years had passed. The northern region was devastated. The war between the 3 sects was coming to an end. It could be said that almost all the resources of the sects were exhausted. The final battle was about to begin. On the other side, over the past 50,000 years, Yi Xian had been steadily cultivating. The celestial court of the northern region operated like a tireless machine. The disciples of the 6 sects came out in full force and crazily plundered the resources of the northern region. It was unknown how many sects were massacred. If it were in the past, the celestial court of the northern region would have already provoked the 3 sects of the northern region to kill them. However, the 3 sects could not even take care of themselves now. Even if they knew what the celestial court of the northern region was doing, they were powerless to intervene. A large number of cultivation resources were sent to the snow bamboo peak where Yi Xian was. The spiritual energy that stirred the world was as thick as water. In the past 50,000 years, Yi Xian did not take half a step out of the snow bamboo peak. Yi Xian swallowed all the medicinal pills, spiritual essences, heavenly materials, and earthly treasures. As long as it was beneficial to increasing one's cultivation, he was crazily cultivating the heaven-bearing technique. His cultivation of the Tao integration realm was also gradually increasing. Chapter 1461. The Celestial Court plundered the resources of the entire northern territory with the power of a single sect, and any sect that disobeyed it was wiped out. For 50,000 years, the Northern Territory's Celestial Court became notorious, and a large number of sects chose to join the Northern Territory's Celestial Court. Anyone who disobeyed the will of the Northern Territory's Celestial Court would end up with their sect destroyed. Yi Xian's creed was very simple. Those who obey him will live, and those who disobey him will die. Under this mantra, the Northern Territory's Celestial Court was cruel and ruthless. They would slaughter sects and destroy sects at the slightest disagreement, thoroughly establishing the fierce reputation of the Northern Territory's Celestial Court. At the same time, Yi Xian's cultivation was increasing day by day. He was immersed in a sea of spiritual energy every day. With the Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art in hand, he refined these spiritual essences at an extremely fast speed. Even if the Northern Territory's Celestial Court plundered a huge amount of resources, it still couldn't catch up with Yi Xian's cultivation speed. The Northern Territory was bitterly cold, and cultivation resources were very scarce. Yi Xian's consumption was simply terrifying. His body was like a bottomless pit, and the cultivation resources he refined were simply unimaginable. To make a simple analogy, the natural treasures Yi Xian refined at this moment were enough for 100 Tao integration realm cultivators to break through to the immortal realm. However, for Yi Xian, it only sped up his cultivation speed. There was an old saying in the chaotic universe: the greater a person's potential, the more resources they needed. From this, one could see that Yi Xian's potential was terrifying to the extreme. Even the strongest of all time in the past didn't have such terrifying potential. In the blink of an eye, another 30,000 years passed. The Northern Star territory finally calmed down, and the war between the three sects completely stopped. The Northern Territory's celestial court also stopped plundering, but an extremely oppressive atmosphere grew in the entire Northern Territory. This was because the creatures of the Northern Territory knew that the Northern Star territory, which had been in turmoil for 100,000 years, was about to have a final battle. The war between the three sects was also about to usher in its final moment. Who would have the last laugh would soon be revealed. Snow Bamboo Peak. A stream of turbid air burst out, directly tearing a hole in the void between heaven and earth. Yi Xian's cross-legged figure trembled slightly, and his tightly shut eyes slowly opened at this moment. The treasures of heaven and earth that were like small hills around him all turned into ashes and dissipated. Too slow. A total of 80,000 years had passed. Yi Xian had refined a large number of cultivation resources every day, but he had only stepped into the mid-stage Dao integration realm. He was still quite a distance away from the late-stage Dao integration realm, let alone cultivate to the perfected Dao integration realm. Even Yi Xian himself didn't think that he'd painstakingly cultivated day and night for a total of 80,000 years. His entire body was soaked in heavenly materials and earthly treasures, but his progress was still so slow. This made him feel extremely helpless. Yi Xian finally realized that his body was really like a bottomless pit, as if it could not be filled at all. Unless he was given another 1,000,000 years, perhaps he would be able to cultivate to the perfected Dao integration realm. 1,000,000 years was not a long time for Yi Xian, and he was completely patient. However, he could not continue to cultivate now because the cultivation resources were getting fewer and fewer. The resources that the Northern Region Celestial Court had seized over the past 10,000 years were getting increasingly scarce, and could not support his cultivation at all. Moreover, the most important thing was that the war between the three major sects of the Northern Region was coming to an end, and the final battle was about to begin. Yi Xian could not continue to cultivate at this time, because it was finally time for him and the Northern Region Celestial Court to make a move. Sect leader, long live you! The five immortals quietly appeared behind Yi Xian and bowed to Yi Xian. Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen hurried over at this moment, but each of them had a solemn look on their faces. In the past 80,000 years, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Gu Beichen had already stepped into the extreme Yin realm. Although Fatso Huang's aptitude was not as good as Gu Beichen's, he had cultivated Yi Xian's sky-bearing skill. In addition to the massive supply of cultivation resources, his cultivation had also just stepped into the creation realm. However, the five immortals' cultivation had not improved at all. After all, 80,000 years was not enough for the immortal realm to have a significant improvement. However, after nearly 100,000 years of development, the Northern Region Celestial Court had truly become the fourth major sect of the Northern Region, and could completely compete with the three major sects of the Northern Region. Sect leader, these are the visiting cards sent by the three major sects of the Northern Region. Please take a look. Sect Master Jiuchu bowed to Yi Xian. With a flip of his hand, he took out 3 golden invitations and handed them over to Yi Xian. Yi Xian casually received them and flipped through them one by one. Everything was silent, and the world was silent. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Yi Xian casually tossed the 3 invitations to the ground. A faint smile appeared on his face, causing the eyes of the 5 immortals to slightly move. They didn't know what was written in the invitations. Since Yi Xian did not say, the 5 immortals naturally did not dare to take the initiative to ask. However, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen naturally did not have such concerns. After all, the 2 of them had followed Yi Xian since the human world. Sir, what do the 3 major sects of the Northern Region mean? Fatso Huang probed. Since it's a visiting card, we naturally have to pay them a visit. Yi Xian smiled faintly. Pay them a visit? The 5 immortals were all shocked. They could vaguely guess what was going on. Sect leader, Could it be that the three major sects sent messengers to visit our northern region's celestial court? Red Serpent, which was surprised. Messengers? Yi Xian smiled. However, his smile was very strange. There was even a hint of disdain at the corner of his mouth. This time is different from the past. The three major sects will personally pay a visit and say that they want to drink wine and discuss the Tao with me. Sir, are you saying that the three major sects are paying you a visit because they need your help? Fatso Huang asked. Yi Xian slowly nodded. The war between the three major sects has entered its final stage. At this moment, they are in a stalemate. Only our northern region's celestial court can break this stalemate. Naturally, they need my help. This is also within our expectations. Sect leader, our chance is here. Green Ghost Taoist excitedly said. There was even a cold glint in his eyes. Beichen, Fatso Huang. Yes, sect leader. Go and tell the three sects that I will be waiting for them at Snow Bamboo Peak in 3 days. However, I will only meet one person each day. Let's start with sect leader Tong Ming. Yi Xian smiled. Sir. Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen coldly smiled. The two of them knew Yi Xian's temperament very well. At this final moment, Yi Xian wanted to squeeze the three major sects dry. The initiative was firmly in Yi Xian's hands. You all go and prepare as well. Summon everyone from the northern region's celestial court back. This final battle will decide the future of the northern region's celestial court. Yi Xian calmly said. Yes, sect leader. The 5 immortals looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Then, they accepted the order and left. At this moment, only Yi Xian was left at Snow Bamboo Peak. His deep eyes looked down at the sea of clouds in front of him. A trace of blood quietly flashed through his eyes. The heaven-shattering cauldron, soon, soon, Yi Xian softly murmured. However, an extremely evil and tyrannical smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then, he quickly calmed down and sat down cross-legged to cultivate again. Chapter 1462. The world was silent, the mountains and rivers were open, and the dark clouds rolled in. In the sky, the people of the three sects were clearly separated. The three sects' leaders forgot about each other, and an extremely oppressive atmosphere grew between the heaven and earth. Dark North, stop your pointless struggle. Hand over what I want. It's your best choice. Tongming sect master said coldly with his hands behind his back. I said that we don't have that item. Dark North sect master said coldly. What a joke. You know whether that item is in your hands or not. Since you want to keep it even if it means the destruction of Dark North sect, we will naturally accompany you. Tongming sect master sneered. Dark North, hand over that item. Otherwise, it won't benefit our three sects if we fight to the end. The fairy sect master was a beautiful woman. She wore a white immortal robe and had a peerless appearance. However, her face was as cold as a 1,000-year-old mountain. No one could get close to her. Haha. Facing the threats of the two sects, Dark North sect master laughed maniacally. Not to mention that item isn't in my hands. Even if it is, our Dark North sect isn't a pushover. How can we let you do whatever you want? Stubborn resistance. Tongming sect master sneered and ignored Dark North sect master. Instead, he looked at the gate of heaven in front of him. This sect master Yi is so arrogant. The fairy sect master frowned and also looked at the gate of heaven. They were here to pay their respects to sect master Yi, who was also the master of the northern region's celestial court. However, the three sects had been waiting here for a long time, but Yi Xian didn't summon them. This made them extremely dissatisfied. If it wasn't for the conflict between the three sects, the northern region's celestial court wouldn't have taken advantage of the chaos. Now that you're here to ask for help, you should have the attitude of asking for help. If you have the ability, you can leave now. Dark North sect master sneered. After 100,000 years of war, the three sects had lost all their resources. Several of their elders had died, and countless of their disciples had died. Moreover, the three sects were fighting against each other, and none of them could do anything to the other. They didn't dare to use their full strength, for fear that they would only benefit others. If the two sects fought to the death, The other sect would sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Therefore, no matter how intense the battle was, the three sects would leave some leeway. That was why the battle between the three sects had been in a stalemate for so many years. At this moment, the three sect masters had personally come to visit Yi Xian in order to break this stalemate. As long as they could obtain Yi Xian's support, they would have a great chance of winning. My sect master invites sect master Tong Ming in. Fatso Huang floated over and cupped his hands towards Tong Ming. This caused Tong Ming's eyes to light up and a hint of approval appeared on his face. Haha, sect master Yi and I are close friends. Today we will drink wine and discuss the Tao. We won't leave until we're drunk. Tong Ming laughed wildly. He was deliberately provoking the two sect masters. Then he strode into the Northern Region Celestial Court. This indeed caused the Northern Region sect master and the Fairy sect master's expressions to turn extremely gloomy. However, they had come here to ask for help, so they naturally couldn't show any dissatisfaction. They could only wait patiently outside the mountain gate. In fact, they already hated Yi Xian in their hearts. The three great overlords of the Northern Region, who could shake the entire Northern Region with a stomp of their feet, had been reduced to waiting outside. This difference made the two sect masters feel extremely sullen. On the snow bamboo peak, there was a stone table for stone stools and a pot of sake. Other than that, there was nothing else. Yi Xian sat on the table with a peaceful expression. From time to time, he would take a sip of the drink in his cup. Fellow Taoist, we haven't seen each other for many years. Fellow Taoist temperament has become even more otherworldly. I'm truly inferior to you. Tong Ming laughed loudly as he walked towards Yi Xian. Behind him was a woman with a black veil covering her face. She was wearing the same robes as him. Although her cultivation wasn't obvious, the fact that she was walking side by side with Tong Ming proved that her status in the sect master was definitely not low. Fellow Taoist Tong Ming, please take a seat. Yi Xian smiled faintly. However, he didn't get up to greet them and remained seated. This caused Tong Ming to frown unconsciously. However, the frown quickly disappeared and the smile on his face became even wider. It was as if Yi Xian was really a good friend who hadn't seen each other for many years. Come. Let me introduce you. This is my junior sister and the sage of our Tong Ming sect. She has already opened the third gate of heaven and is definitely not inferior to me. Tong Ming enthusiastically introduced the woman behind him to Yi Xian. The woman with a black veil walked forward and clasped her hands together as she bowed towards Yi Xian. I've heard that sect Master Ye's cultivation is heaven-shaking and you've even founded a great sect. Today, I see that you truly live up to your reputation. Fellow Taoist, you must be joking. I'm merely a Tao integration stage cultivator. How can I receive such praise? Yi Xian smiled. Sect Master Yi is too modest. With sect Master Ye's cultivation, even if I open the third gate of heaven, I might not be your match. Senior apprentice brother Tong Ming also holds you in high regard, so this is just a small gift. I hope sect Master Yi will accept it. Tong Ming's saintess expression couldn't be seen clearly due to the black veil covering her face. However, her words were filled with flattery. She even placed a brocade box on the stone table. Fellow Taoists are too polite. Yi Xian smiled faintly. He had no intention of opening the brocade box. It was as if he wasn't interested in the gift inside. Yi Daoyu, aren't you going to take a look at the gift inside the brocade box? Seeing that Yi Xian had no intention of opening the brocade box, Tong Ming's sec's eyes flickered. Yi Xian pretended to be surprised. It seems like the gift inside the brocade box is extremely precious. I'll have to take a look at it then. As Yi Xian spoke, he gently opened the brocade box. Instantly, a ray of light shot out from the brocade box. Auspicious sounds could be heard as the light covered the sky. Just the fragrance from the light was enough to make one feel refreshed. The blood and qi in one's body started to circulate rapidly. The profound 9 divine pill is a powerful pill. If a Tao integration stage cultivator were to consume it, their cultivation would increase by 1. If a Tao integration stage cultivator were to consume this pill, their cultivation would increase greatly. They would even have a 20% chance of undergoing the immortal divine tribulation. My Tongming sect only has 2 of these pills. One was consumed by my junior sister, and the other is given to fellow Taoist. Tongming sect's sect master introduced enthusiastically. He was constantly observing the changes on Yi Xian's face. Tongming sect's sect master believed that Yi Xian wouldn't be able to reject his gift. One had to know that the profound 9 divine pill was extremely precious. It was one of the most precious treasures of Tongming sect. Moreover, it had unimaginable benefits for Dao integration stage cultivators. To Yi Xian, this gift was extremely precious. Unfortunately, Tongming sect's sect master was going to be disappointed. The smile on his face gradually disappeared. This was because Yi Xian had gently closed the brocade box. His expression was calm, as if he didn't care about the profound 9 divine pill at all. Many thanks for fellow Taoist's generosity. Yi Xian smiled faintly at Tongming sect's sect master. Then he waved his hand and said, "Come, accept the gift." Chapter 1463. A figure silently appeared behind Yi Xian and casually took the brocade box on the table. However, the appearance of this person caused Tongming Saintess and Tongming sect master's expression to change. Both of them stared at this person. "Taoist Green Ghost, why are you here?" Tongming sect master asked coldly. This Taoist Green Ghost was once a protector of Tongming sect. However, he later betrayed Tongming sect. Tongming sect had been chasing after him for many years. However, Taoist Green Ghost's talent was extremely high. Not only did he not die in the hands of Tongming sect, he even broke through to the immortal realm. Hee. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Taoist Green Ghost grinned at Tongming sect master and let out a sinister laugh. However, his eyes were fixed on Tongming Saintess. His eyes were green and red. "Junior sister, after not seeing you for so many years, I wonder if you have forgotten me?" Taoist Green Ghost asked sternly. It had to be said that Tongming Saintess was extremely calm. She was not surprised by Taoist Green Ghost's appearance. Instead, she said softly, "Senior brother Green Ghost, it was a misunderstanding back then. Junior sister also regrets her actions back then and wants to make it up to senior brother." Misunderstanding? Taoist Green Ghost was so angry that he laughed. "What a misunderstanding. You killed Saint Child Dark North on your wedding day and then framed me for it. You call that a misunderstanding? Senior brother, I will explain this matter to you in the future. Junior sister really has her own difficulties." Tongming Saintess sighed sadly. "You bitch." Taoist Green Ghost said angrily. A terrifying halo appeared around his body. His eyes turned scarlet. Clearly, he could not control the killing intent in his heart. This woman in front of him was extremely sinister. He knew her temperament too well. "You are a guest. Don't be rude." Suddenly, Yi Xian's voice rang out. This also woke Taoist Green Ghost up. He glared hatefully at Tongming sect master and Tongming sect master before retreating behind Yi Xian. He lowered his head and did not say anything. This scene caused Tongming sect master and Tongming sect master's expressions to change. They knew Taoist Green Ghost's temperament very well. They did not expect Yi Xian to make Taoist Green Ghost calm down with just a few words. "Fellow Taoists, please don't take offense. Green Ghost has been in my northern celestial court for many years. I know about the grudges between you and him. He has been rude today. I apologize on his behalf. I hope you don't take it to your heart." Yi Xian pretended to apologize. "Sect Master, Tongming Sect Green Ghost. From now we. From now on. From now." Tongming said with a fake smile. However, a trace of heaviness flashed through his eyes as he looked at Yi Xian. To be able to make someone as arrogant as Green Ghost to be so obedient, it meant that Yi Xian was a terrifying person. Tongming Sect Master's view of Yi Xian deepened once again. "Sect Master Yi Xian, let's not beat around the bush. We came here today because we have a request." Tongming Sect Master bowed to Yi Xian and went straight to the point. "Oh." Yi Xian pretended not to understand and said, "I don't know what request you two have. As long as I can do it, I will not refuse. However, if it is beyond my ability, I believe you too can understand my difficulties. Hearing Yi Xian's ambiguous words, Tongming sect master and Tongming sect master's hearts sank. They had a deep understanding of Yi Xian's craftiness. Yi Xian clearly knew why they were here, but he pretended not to know. He was clearly trying to raise the price. One profound Ka9 divine pill was not enough to satisfy his appetite. Fellow Taoist Yi, the war between our three sects has been going on for 100,000 years, and we've reached the final juncture. Only fellow Taoists' Northern Region Heavenly Court can help my Tongming sect in this final battle. I hope that fellow Taoist can help my Tongming sect. As long as you can obtain that item, all of the cultivation resources of the Northern Nether sect and Fairy sect will be given to fellow Taoist. Sect Master Yi, as long as you can help us obtain that item, we can share this treasure. This is also an opportunity for Sect Master Yi. I hope Sect Master Yi can consider it carefully. Tongming sect master increased the bargaining chip. Unfortunately, Yi Xian remained silent from beginning to end. He was completely indifferent to their promises, causing the two of them to be unable to continue speaking. It was obvious that Yi Xian wasn't moved in the slightest. Yi Xian smiled. His smile was very elegant, as if he had turned into a gentleman. However, the words he said stunned Tongming sect master and Tongming sect master. Then, their faces turned gloomy. Everyone knows how to make empty promises. Do you two fellow Taoists take me for a fool? Yi Dao, what do you mean by this? Don't you want the heaven-shattering cauldron? Tongming sect master's face turned cold. He had already made a huge concession, but Yi Xian still did not agree. Although the heaven-shattering cauldron is good, who knows if you two fellow Taoists will be willing to share it with me? Yi Xian paused for a moment and sneered. Moreover, helping you Tongming sect is not a child's play. You want to use my Northern Region Celestial Court as a wager for the future. If you fail, my Northern Region Celestial Court will also be destroyed. Don't you two fellow Taoists think that you want my Northern Region Celestial Court to be involved in the war between the three sects with your empty promises? Don't you two fellow Taoists think that this is a joke? Tongming sect master's expression changed when he heard Yi Xian's words. He did not expect Yi Xian to be so difficult to deal with. This made him furious. Yi Xian, don't forget that you are the one who started the war between the three sections. If you did not tell me about the heaven-shattering cauldron, my Northern Region Celestial Court would not have been able to rise. You would have been destroyed by my Northern Region Celestial Court a long time ago. Now, you are not involved. Do you really think this sect master is a fool? Tongming, are you going to fall out with me? Who do you think you are? Do you have the qualifications to fall out with me? In the next moment, the smile on Yi Xian's face disappeared and he became extremely sinister. He did not leave any face for Tongming sect master. You dare to humiliate me? Boom. A gloomy light shot into the sky as the three heavenly gates opened. Tongming sect master's face was filled with rage as he looked at Yi Xian with eyes filled with dense killing intent. So what if I humiliate you? Who do you think you are? Yi Xian sneered. He did not put Tongming sect master's bluff in his eyes. He was certain that Tongming sect master would not dare to make a move because once he made a move, he would not only have to face the Fairy sect and Northern Nether sect, but also the Northern Region Celestial Court. At that time, everyone in Tongming sect would die without a burial ground. Sect Master Yi, please calm down. Senior brother, what are you doing? Why aren't you apologizing to Sect Master Yi? The Saintess hurriedly reprimanded Tongming sect master and even bowed to Yi Xian to apologize. Tongming sect master clenched his fists and the veins on his forehead bulged. However, he could only take a deep breath and force out a smile. Yi Dao, you and I are friends, not enemies. I was being unreasonable just now. People had to lower their heads when they were under someone else's roof. Tongming sect master finally understood the meaning of these words. Now that the initiative was in Yi Xian's hands, he had to endure. Even if Yi Xian cursed his 18 generations of ancestors, he had to welcome it with a smile. To put it bluntly, even if Yi Xian gave him a slap, he'd still welcome it with a smile on his face. He even had to ask Yi Xian if his hand hurt. At this moment, he could not fall out with Yi Xian. If he did, not only would he not be able to obtain the heaven-shattering cauldron, the entire Tongming sect would be destroyed. This was a price he could not bear. Chapter 1464. That's right. If you ask for help, you have to have the humble attitude of asking for help. If you're too arrogant, you'll bring disaster upon yourself. Yi Xian ridiculed. Dao friend is right. I've learned my lesson. Tongming sect master gritted his teeth. He wanted nothing more than to tear Yi Xian into pieces. He regretted not killing Yi Xian back then. Instead, he allowed Yi Xian to grow stronger. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Even if Tongming was filled with regret, he could only endure it now. However, Tongming secretly swore that once the war between the three sects ended and he obtained the heaven-shattering cauldron, the first person he would kill would be Yi Xian. Sect Master Yi, name a price. How can you help my Tongming sect? Tongming Saintess was very calm. She knew that Yi Xian was only asking for an exorbitant price. Now that they were the ones asking for help, they had to agree even if they didn't want to. They couldn't afford to offend Yi Xian. Dao friend is indeed straightforward. Then I won't be polite. Yi Xian threw out a jade slip and it landed in the Saintess' hand. My northern region celestial court has 5 immortals and millions of disciples. Although I'm a Dao reunion cultivator, my cultivation isn't any weaker than the two of you. I'm sure your sect has a lot of the things recorded in this jade slip. As long as you can get them, my northern region celestial court will be your most loyal ally. While Yi Xian was speaking, the Saintess had been looking at the jade slip. However, the Saintess's face was covered by a black veil, so it was impossible to see her expression. Her body was slightly trembling, and in the next moment, she suddenly raised her head to look at Yi Xian. Sect Master Yi, isn't your appetite a bit too big? Even though the Saintess was an extremely shrewd woman, she couldn't control the anger in her heart when she saw the conditions that Yi Xian had offered. Tongming sect master's expression changed slightly as he snatched the jade slip to read it. However, in the next moment, his face turned ashen as he glared at Yi Xian with an ominous glint in his eyes. They had gone too far. This was going too far. 8 Desolation Cloud Skygrass. 9 Extreme Inferno Fruit. Primordial Chaos Destiny Pill. Immeasurable God Yuan Powder. These things were all heavenly and earthly treasures, and they were even sacred items in the world. Every single one of them was something that could only be chanced upon by luck, and any one of them could be compared to the 9 Divine Profound Pill. Moreover, this was only secondary. In addition to these divine items of the world, this jade slip listed countless divine weapons and secret techniques, including a huge amount of medicinal pills and spiritual items of heaven and earth. Just the things recorded in the jade slip could be said to be the entire heritage of a large sect. What infuriated the sage and Tongming sect leader the most was that the things recorded in the jade slip were the assets of the Tongming sect. It was as if Yi Xian knew that the Tongming sect had these things. Who leaked the secret? There must be a spy in the Tongming sect. Otherwise, Yi Xian wouldn't know so much about the Tongming sect. At the same time, the sage and Tongming sect leader looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. However, in the next moment, the two of them came to their senses and looked at Taoist Qinggui. They saw Taoist Qinggui staring at them coldly, and this made them realize what was going on. Taoist Qinggui. Other than Taoist Qinggui, there could be no one else. Taoist Qinggui was once a protector of the Tongming sect. Other than him, who else could tell Yi Xian about the Tongming sect? Sect Master Yi, the things you want include the entire heritage of my sect. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to swallow them all? Tongming sect leader said in a cold voice. His fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. It was obvious that his anger had reached its peak, and he was just suppressing it. Whether I can swallow them or not, fellow Taoist doesn't need to worry about that. I want to see these things in a month. Otherwise, my northern region celestial court won't be able to help your sect. Yi Xian said with a faint smile. Junior sister, let's go. With a flick of his sleeve, he turned around and was about to leave. However, before he could take a second step, Yi Xian's voice lightly sounded from behind him. Since fellow Taoist isn't willing, this Yi won't force you. However, the two sect leaders outside are waiting to meet me. If my northern region celestial court becomes your sect's enemy in the future, I hope that fellow Taoist Tong Ming can understand. Boom. Tong Ming abruptly turned around. His eyes were bloodshot, and his venomous gaze seemed to want to cut Yi Xian into 1,000 pieces. However, he gradually calmed down, and the malevolent and venomous expression on his face gradually faded. All right, I promise you. A month later, my Tong Ming sect will definitely deliver the things you want. I hope that fellow Taoist won't go back on his word. Tong Ming sect leader's voice was so calm that it was a little scary. Many thanks, fellow Taoist. Green Ghost, send the guests off. Yi Xian chuckled. Taoist Green Ghost gestured to Tong Ming sect leader and Tong Ming sect leader. This caused Tong Ming sect leader to take a deep look at Yi Xian. He then called out to Tong Ming sect leader and left Snow Bamboo Peak. Mister, I'm afraid that after the war between the three sects ends, Tong Ming sect leader will definitely come to settle the score with you. Fatso Huang quietly appeared behind Yi Xian and said. Looking at the departing figures of Tong Ming sect leader and Tong Ming sect leader, Yi Xian sneered, settle the score? Do you think that the three great sects of the northern region can still exist? Hearing Yi Xian's cold tone, Fatso Huang couldn't help but shiver. He then gave a flattering smile and didn't reply. He could only silently pray for Tong Ming sect leader in his heart, praying that he would suffer a little when he died. Tong Ming sect leader and Tong Ming sect leader exited the mountain gate. However, their auras were extremely sinister. This caused the two sect leaders who were waiting outside to rejoice. They thought that the conversation between Tong Ming sect leader and Yi Xian wasn't pleasant. This also meant that they still had a chance. Sect leader, please come in. In the next moment, Fatso Huang appeared again. This also caused sect leader Dark North to walk out with large strides. Behind him were two supreme elders. The three of them entered the mountain gate to pay a visit to Yi Xian. On Snow Bamboo Peak. Haha, I've long heard that sect leader Yi is young and promising. Today, I see that you're indeed extraordinary. If sect leader Yi is willing to be friends with me, then our two sects will help each other in the future. This vast northern starfield will also be ruled by our two sections. Sect leader Dark North strode over, exuding a graceful and magnanimous aura. Greetings, sect leader Yi. The two supreme elders of Dark North's sect bowed to Yi Xian. These two were sempiternal realm experts who had opened the second gate of heaven. Moreover, they were only one step away from opening the third gate of heaven. At this moment, however, they were extremely humble. Fellow Taoists, please get up. This Yi is not worthy of such great courtesy. Yi Xian enthusiastically helped the two supreme elders up. This also caused sect leader Dark North's eyes to light up. He could tell from Yi Xian's affectionate attitude that Yi Xian had. He was secretly delighted. As long as Yi Xian was willing to advance and retreat together with Dark North sect, they would be invincible in this war between the three great sections. Chapter 1465. Sect Master Yi, let's not beat around the bush. I'm sure fellow Taoist knows why I've been waiting here. As long as fellow Taoist is willing to help my Dark North sect overcome this crisis, fellow Taoist can set any conditions. It had to be said that compared to Dark North sect master, Dark North sect master was indeed much more graceful and magnanimous. He didn't waste time talking nonsense and directly stated his purpose. Fellow Taoist Dark North is really straightforward. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. Although he had almost died in the hands of Dark North sect master was indeed very magnanimous. This saved him a lot of trouble. Sect Master Yi, this spatial ring contains many saint items. It is also a gift for fellow Taoist and your sect. If my Dark North sect can overcome this crisis, I will definitely prepare a generous gift to thank fellow Taoist. Dark North sect master took off a ring from his finger and directly threw it at Yi Xian. As Yi Xian received the spatial ring and examined it, even Yi Xian's calm temperament was slightly shaken. This was because the spatial ring was filled with holy treasures. Although it was only half of the treasures he had requested from Tongming cult, it was still something that was placed right in front of him. This was much more shocking than Tongming cult's empty promise. From this, it could be seen that Dark North sect had indeed reached a dead end. These things were almost half of Dark North sect's wealth. Fellow Taoist is really forthright. Yi Xian accepted the spatial ring, allowing Dark North sect master to secretly breathe a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Yi Xian wouldn't accept it and would instead secretly reach some kind of agreement with Dark North sect. Now it seemed that there was still a great chance for a turnaround. Although fellow Taoist is very generous, fellow Taoist Dark North sect master has promised to give me twice the cultivation resources of your sect. This really makes things difficult for me. Yi Xian pretended to be hesitant. Dark North sect master's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect Dark North sect master to put in so much effort. However, he was already prepared and said, "Sect Master Yi, rest assured. Whatever Dark North sect master can give, my Dark North sect will naturally not be less than Dark North sect master. Moreover, I'm willing to give fellow Taoist the Dark North heavenly scripture. What do you think?" "Sect leader, you can't." The two supreme elders' expressions changed instantly. They never thought that the Dark North hierarch would actually give the hierarch's legacy to Yi Xian. This was simply unacceptable. It should be known that apart from the immortal realm, the foundation of a sect was the sect guarding method. The fact that it could be the sect guarding method indicated that this kind of method was extremely terrifying. Although it was not as powerful as the supreme method, it was extremely powerful in the entire chaotic world. It's our honor to have a friend like Hierarch Yi with the Northern Underworld heavenly scripture. Don't say anything. Hierarch North Underworld pretended to reprimand them. As the old saying went, one would never slap a smiling face. Additionally, Dark North Hierarch had lowered himself and offered such a great offer. If it were anyone else, they would feel too embarrassed to turn him down. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was definitely not one of them. He was a very greedy person and wouldn't be satisfied until he squeezed the three powers dry. Forget about the Northern Underworld heavenly scripture, but I really admire the heaven-breaking cauldron of your sect. If you can let me meditate on it for a few days, I don't need these cultivation resources. Yi Xian pretended to be casual. However, as soon as Yi Xian finished speaking, the smile on Dark North Hierarch's face suddenly disappeared. His eyes instantly became gloomy, and then disappeared again in an instant. "You must be joking. We don't have the heaven-breaking cauldron at all. If we did have such a legendary treasure of the chaos, how could they bully us?" Dark North Hierarch would never admit that the heaven-breaking cauldron was in his hands. After all, the war between the three powers for 100,000 years did not make him compromise. Even if he came to Yi Xian today, he would not reveal any information about the heaven-breaking cauldron. "Haha." Yi Xian laughed and said, "I'm just joking with you. Please don't take it to heart. In fact, it's very easy for the Northern Region Celestial Court to help you. As long as you agree to one more condition, the alliance between our two sects will naturally be easy. No matter what it is, just say it. As long as we can do it, we won't refuse." Dark North Hierarch said firmly. 1 month later, I want to see the Saintess head. In the next moment, Yi Xian coldly spoke. This caused the Dark North sect leader and the two supreme elders to be stunned on the spot. They looked at Yi Xian with bewilderment. They didn't know why Yi Xian would raise such a condition. "Yi Daoyu, it's not that I don't want to agree, but the Saintess is also in existence who opened the third gate. If we could kill her, we would have done it long ago. Why would we need you to mention it?" Dark North Hierarch was speaking the truth. Dark North Hierarch had started the war between the three powers. The two powers could be said to be irreconcilable. Under the joint attack of Dark North Hierarch and the Saintess, he almost died in their hands. If the two supreme elders didn't arrive in time, he would have suffered a great calamity. How could Dark North Hierarch not want to kill the Saintess? However, it was extremely difficult to kill an existence who opened the third gate. Otherwise, the war between the three powers wouldn't have lasted for 100,000 years. "Don't worry, I'll tell you everything." Yi Xian smiled eerily. A cloud of smoke covered the snow bamboo peak. No one knew what Yi Xian and Dark North Hierarch were talking about. After 2 hours, Dark North Hierarch left with the two supreme elders. Mister, are you sure there won't be a problem? Fatso Huang asked worriedly. Yi Xian's plan was too risky. Moreover, it was playing with fire. One wrong step could put him in danger. Don't worry, Dark North Hierarch has the heaven-breaking cauldron. They are already in a desperate situation and can only choose to cooperate with me. Yi Xian smiled with a profound glint in his eyes. The Northern Nether sect and the Goddess sect had irreconcilable conflicts, and this conflict was the heaven-shattering cauldron. The Northern Nether sect would definitely not hand it over, and there was no room for negotiation with the two sects regarding the heaven-shattering cauldron. This was Yi Xian's opportunity. Soon, the fairy hierarch arrived at the snow bamboo peak under the lead of Fatso Huang. One had to admit that she was truly beautiful. She had a noble and cold temperament. She was definitely a peerless beauty in the entire northern region. Moreover, she was the fairy hierarch. The combination of the two made her even more imposing. Hierarchy. The fairy hierarch walked over and nodded at Yi Xian as a form of greeting. I have always heard that fairy hierarch is the #1 beauty in the northern region. Your 8 laws of mysterious heaven is world-shaking. I also heard that among the 3 great hierarchs, fellow Taoist is stronger than the other 2. Today, I see that you are indeed worthy of your reputation. With just a glance, Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at the fairy hierarch with a heavy glint in his eyes. If the cultivation of the sect leader and the Dark North sect leader were on par, then Yi Xian would be able to see through them. However, the sect leader in front of him caused Yi Xian's heart to sink slightly. Half a step. Just half a step, this heavenly woman sect master was actually just half a step away from opening the 4th heavenly gate. However, everything he had done was for the sake of obtaining the heaven-shattering cauldron and breaking through to the immortal realm. It was different from what the goddess sect leader had said. However, the goddess sect leader had indeed caused Yi Xian to have a whole new level of respect for her. Just these words alone proved why the goddess sect leader was about to open the 4th heaven gate. This kind of woman was indeed terrifyingly powerful and calm. She could be considered the strongest opponent he'd encountered in the northern region. Fortunately, the goddess sect leader hadn't opened the 4th heaven gate yet. Otherwise, if she opened the 4th heaven gate, Yi Xian would really have a headache. After all, any scheme or trick was nothing in the face of absolute power. Go and summon Qi Lian. Yi Xian waved his hand. Fatso Huang quietly left and returned shortly after with Qi Lian She-Devil following closely behind. Hong Luan, do you still remember me? When Qi Lian She-Devil arrived at the snow bamboo peak, the goddess sect leader coldly berated her. This instantly made Qi Lian She-Devil turn pale. Her knees went soft and she almost knelt on the ground. Marshal Aunt Qing Shui. Qi Lian She-Devil spoke with a trembling voice. She subconsciously prostrated on the ground. Get up! Suddenly, without waiting for the Scarlet Witch to kneel, Yi Xian's sleeves fluttered as he stopped the Scarlet Witch from kneeling. This also caused the Scarlet Witch to instantly wake up. She quickly arrived behind Yi Xian and looked at the goddess sect leader with eyes filled with reverence. This is the Northern Celestial Court, not your goddess sect. Moreover, Qi Lian is already a member of my Northern Celestial Court. Dao friend, what is the meaning of this? Yi Xian indifferently said. Today, I am here to take Hong Luan away. Anyone who dares to stop me will be my enemy. The goddess sect leader strode forward. Although she was a woman, she didn't lose the domineering aura of a hero. Even though this was a crucial moment in the war between the 3 sects, she didn't put Yi Xian in her eyes. Vile disciple, come here. The goddess sect leader coldly berated. Her slender fingers reached towards Qi Lian She-Devil. The winds and clouds in this area surged as a terrifying pulling force acted on Qi Lian She-Devil. Sect leader, save me! Qi Lian She-Devil cried out in fear. She had no way of resisting against the goddess sect leader who was about to open the 4th gate. Impudent! Yi Xian's eyes turned sharp. The stone table in front of him was smashed into pieces by him. He also slammed his palm towards the goddess sect leader. That terrifying heaven burial light whistled across the world as an extremely terrifying power was released. As the saying goes, You have to look at the owner before beating the dog. This was Yi Xian's home ground, so the goddess sect leader's impudent behavior naturally made Yi Xian unhappy. Bang! The mountains and rivers exploded and the void exploded. The two of them clashed, causing the mountains and rivers to tremble. The entire snow bamboo peak was collapsing. If it wasn't for the protection of the mountain protecting Grand Formation, the snow bamboo peak would have been destroyed by the two of them. You dare to stop me? The goddess sect leader coldly shouted. Her slender fingers danced in the sky. That resplendent radiance illuminated the void. A 100,000 feet tall goddess Dharma body spanned across the heaven and earth. Its boundless power suppressed the entire world. Change. Yi Xian formed hand seals and also executed his transcendence world. He directly confronted the goddess sect leader in the void. The heaven burial art circulated violently in Yi Xian's body, causing a destructive power to ripple through the mountains and rivers. If you had really opened the fourth gate, I might still be a little afraid. Unfortunately, you are still stuck at the third gate. You don't have the right to be impudent in my northern region celestial court, Yi Xian said coldly. You are courting death. Rumble. The goddess sect leader executed her immortal great art, and the sky dimmed down. The stars in outer space flickered, and as she pointed out with her finger, the stars fell from the sky, forming a terrifying scene of stars falling to the ground. The terrifying rumbles shook the heaven and earth as though the world was going to be destroyed. One had to admit that the goddess sect leader was terrifyingly powerful. She was already half a step into the fourth gate and had even comprehended some of its profundities. Every move of hers contained immense power. Attack! Boom! Facing the goddess sect leader's attack, Yi Xian directly activated the attack character technique. He also activated the Calamity Immortal transformation, instantly raising his strength to the limit. He swung his fists and punched out in a terrifying manner. Streaks of fist light that could destroy the heavens and earth rose into the sky, actually intending to forcefully resist the great technique unleashed by the goddess sect leader. Chapter 1467. Bang! Bang! The heavens and the earth shook as the world exploded. The fist light that went against the heavens and the earth illuminated the sky, creating hundreds of beautiful sceneries. The stars that fell from the sky were all turned into ashes by Yi Xian's fist light. Let's see how capable you are. Boom! Yi Xian took a step forward and the heaven-punishing halberd appeared in his hand. He wore the Nirvana battle armor and the heaven-bearing radiance revolved around him. Even the chaotic 12 Yuanhui worlds that he hadn't used for a long time appeared. Let's fight. At this moment, Yi Xian's essence, energy, and spirit were at their peak. He even erupted with all of his strength as he charged towards the goddess sect leader. This was because he really wanted to see if he could fight against an expert like the goddess sect leader with all of his strength. Goddess of Shock. The goddess sect leader's expression changed slightly. She wore a pair of silver-white gloves on her hands, and the resplendent treasure light was extremely dazzling. It was obvious that this was her protective weapon. Her jade-like hands directly smashed towards Yi Xian. Clang, clang, clang. The halberd swept across the sky and destroyed the world. Yi Xian thrust the heaven-punishing halberd forward. The goddess sect leader didn't fall into a disadvantageous position and continued to counterattack. It was unknown what the silver-white gloves were made of, but they weren't damaged at all. Bang, bang. Following two muffled sounds, Yi Xian's halberd landed on the goddess sect leader's shoulder while the goddess sect leader's palm landed on Yi Xian's body. Both of them were sent flying at the same time. No one knew who won or lost. Boom. At the same time, both of them were sent flying back. However, before they could continue fighting, Scarlet Witch appeared in front of them and knelt down before the goddess sect leader. Martial Ant Qingxue, stop fighting. I'll go back with you, Scarlet Witch said with a pale face. No one knew her martial ant better than Scarlet Serpent Witch. Her martial ant Qingxue was known as the person with the strongest aptitude in the history of the goddess sect. Furthermore, she had a domineering temperament and no one could go against her will. Hong Wan, I have been giving you chances, but look at what you've done all these years. For that man, you betrayed your sect and even killed senior sister. If it weren't for the fact that senior sister wanted me to spare your life, how could you have survived until now? The fairy sect leader's expression was cold and intimidating. Her gaze toward Scarlet, which was filled with disappointment. Martial Aunt Hongwan was wrong. At the mention of her teacher, Scarlet Serpent Witch's eyes turned red. She couldn't stop her tears from falling down and kept on kowtowing to the goddess sect leader to beg for forgiveness. You killed your own master, fellow disciples, and betrayed our sect. Each of these crimes is enough for you to die thousands of times, but you did it just for a man. Do you know that this isn't just a disgrace to you, but also the greatest disgrace to our goddess sect in history? The fairy sect leader shouted angrily and raised her 5 fingers. She couldn't wait to kill the Scarlet Serpent Demoness on the spot. Martial Aunt, please kill me. Scarlet Witch raised her head. Her eyes had lost all signs of life. She only wished for death. The goddess sect master lowered her 5 fingers and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. The killing intent on her body also dissipated. I won't kill you because I promised senior sister to let you live. However, you have to pay for the sins you've committed and the humiliation you've brought to the goddess sect. I will personally suppress you under the goddess mountain and make you repent for your sins for eternity. A golden rope shot out from her hand and instantly bound Scarlet Serpent Witch. However, the goddess sect leader's eyes dimmed. Back then, she loved this martial niece of hers the most in the goddess sect. However, Scarlet Serpent Witch had committed a grave mistake and she had to atone for it. Boom. The goddess sect leader didn't even look at Yi Xian. She was about to leave with Scarlet Witch. However, before she could do anything, Yi Xian quietly blocked her way. Fellow Taoist Yi, I have to say that you're able to contend with me when you're only in the Tao integration realm. This really does shock me. Not to mention the northern region, even in the Grand Central region, people like you are as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. You're completely capable of competing for the title of strongest of all ages in the next Yuan Hui. I don't want to offend someone like you. When you step into the immortal realm, I won't be your match either. However, you're not my match now. This is a family matter of my sect. I hope you won't interfere. The goddess sect doesn't want to have a grudge with someone like you. The goddess sect leader frowned. This was the first time in her life that she had lowered her stance. Yi Xian had given her too much shock. Yi Xian wasn't someone she could offend. If she really offended Yi Xian, she would definitely be punished in the future. This wasn't something she wanted to see. However, she had to take Scarlet Witch away. This was related to the reputation of the goddess sect and the last request she made to her senior sister. You're a soft-hearted person. I think you just want to save Scarlet Witch, right? Yi Xian put away his halberd and the Nirvana armor. His aura gradually dissipated as he looked at the goddess sect leader with a profound gaze. Dao friend, what are you trying to say? The goddess sect leader was startled, but she pretended to be calm. The war between the 3 sects will affect a lot of places. You want to bring Scarlet Witch back to the goddess sect because you don't want her to be involved in this conflict. You're even more afraid that she will die because of this war. Yi Xian spoke frankly. He paused for a moment before continuing, speaking of which, it's a bit laughable. With fellow Taoist cultivation, it's almost impossible for her to meet a match in the northern region. If you really wanted to capture Qi Lian back to the goddess sect, she wouldn't have been able to escape for so many years. However, you're worried about the reputation of the goddess sect, so you issued a kill order for Scarlet Witch. This is also a show for outsiders. In fact, you've always been concerned about Scarlet Witch. Am I right? The goddess sect leader had a complicated expression after hearing Yi Xian's words. However, she still nodded. Dao friend is right, but so what? I can promise you that I will take Qi Lian away, but the humiliation of the goddess sect is still there. Don't tell me that you don't want to wash away this humiliation? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Dao friend, what do you mean? The goddess sect leader didn't understand. I once asked Scarlet Witch about what happened back then. She killed her master and stole the scriptures for that man. She even slaughtered many of her fellow disciples before rebelling against the goddess sect. However, she was bewitched by that man back then, so she did such a crazy thing. By the time she woke up, it was already too late. All of this was caused by that man who bewitched her. So, that man is the real source. If he didn't plant a bewitching spell on Qi Lian, none of this would have happened. Don't tell me that fellow Taoist doesn't want to find this man? Yi Xian said in a low voice. You know where he is? The goddess sect leader asked in shock. Extremely cold, killing intent flashed across her eyes. How could she not know the secret from back then? She had been investigating that man all these years, but she couldn't find any clues at all. If he didn't bewitch Scarlet Witch, she wouldn't have ended up like this, and the goddess sect wouldn't have been humiliated. Thus, only by killing this man would she be able to wash away the shame of the goddess sect. This was not only Scarlet Witch's obsession, but also the goddess sect leaders. I naturally know who he is, but his identity isn't ordinary. I wonder if Dao Friend is willing to work with me? Yi Xian had a strange smile on his face. Who is he? Almost at the same time, the Celestial Maiden sect leader and the Scarlet Witch asked in unison. Their venomous and hateful gazes caused Yi Xian's heart to tremble. If this woman hated a man, she could do anything. Let me tell you slowly. A layer of mist covered the peak so only the three of them could hear Yi Xian's voice. Half a day later, the clouds and mist dissipated. This Yi Tian is already powerful. We can't let him continue to grow. I think we should have a good talk with the North Dark Sect and Fairy Sect. Tong Ming Sect Master pondered for a long time and finally made a decision in his heart. Senior brother, what do you mean? Tong Ming Saintess's beautiful eyes lit up. Kill Yi Xian first and destroy his northern region celestial court. I believe the Fairy Sect and North Dark Sect also have the same idea. However, the three sects have been in a deadlock for a long time. This is why that brat Yi Xian is free and unfettered until now. Instead, he is restricting us. Tong Ming Sect Master said viciously. But senior brother, without the help of Yi Tian's northern region celestial court, how are we going to obtain the heavenly shattering cauldron? Tong Ming Saintess frowned. Don't worry. I have never placed my hopes on that brat Yi Tian. I have already sent a message to someone. He is on his way. As long as that person arrives, with the three of us working together, we can definitely obtain the heavenly shattering cauldron. Tong Ming Sect Master said confidently. Senior brother, who did you invite? Tong Ming Saintess was startled. Old Devil Mang. Tong Ming Sect Master spoke word by word. However, when the Saintess heard his words, her body trembled. Her beautiful eyes under the black veil were filled with shock. Senior brother, are you crazy? You actually want to cooperate with that ancient devil? Don't you know that old Devil Bei Mang doesn't recognize anyone? If he betrays us, we will be attacked from both sides. Tong Ming Saintess refuted. Junior sister, you are overthinking. Although old Devil Bei Mang is sinister and cunning, he is also extremely greedy. Although I have told him about the heavenly shattering cauldron, I am only using him to deal with the Fairy Sect Master. With his help, we can definitely obtain the heavenly shattering cauldron. Tong Ming Sect Master said in a low voice. Senior brother, you are asking a tiger for its skin. Don't forget what happened to Nine Mountains' loose cultivator. Tong Ming Saintess said in a deep voice. This? Tong Ming Sect Master's expression changed when Nine Mountain and the other two were mentioned. This was because Nine Mountains' loose cultivator was defeated by old Devil Bei Mang. Even his source world was destroyed. Moreover, Nine Mountains' loose cultivator was an existence that opened the third gate of heaven. From this, one could see how terrifying old Devil Bei Mang was. We can't care so much now. We can only stake everything on this one throw. However, before old Devil Bei Mang arrives, we should ease the situation between the three sects and join forces with the other two sects to destroy that brat Yi Tian and his celestial court. Only then can we get rid of any worries. Tong Ming Sect Master said in a sinister voice. All right. Tong Ming Saintess nodded slowly. That way, we can get rid of the hidden danger of our three sections. Dark North Sect leader agreed. Fellow Taoists, let's set off. Tong Ming Sect Master laughed heartily. He never thought that things would go so smoothly, and this made him so excited that he spoke. A streak of rainbow light appeared beneath his feet as he soared into the sky. Clearly, he was going to charge towards the northern region celestial court and grind Yi Xian's bones into dust. Rumble. Dark North Hierarch brought the 2 Grand Elders and rose into the sky. Goddess Sect Leader also rose into the sky. Tong Ming Saintess also rose into the sky. However, Dark North Hierarch and the other 2 Grand Elders kept Tong Ming Saintess and Dark North Hierarch apart. The entire process was very natural. Fellow Taoists, after we kill that brat Yi Tian, Tong Ming Sect Leader said excitedly. However, before he could finish his words, the following scene caused him to be completely shocked and enraged. Die! Rumble! An earth-shattering killing intent rang out from Dark North Sect Leader's mouth. A great art of cold heaven shot out from his hand, targeting the defenseless sage Tong Ming Sect Leader. Moreover, this was not the end. The 2 sect leaders also attacked the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader. It could be said that they had used all their cultivation. The combined attack of 3 Immortal Realm experts was terrifying to the extreme. You dare! Tong Ming Sect Leader roared furiously. However, it was already too late for him to save the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader. Bang! What? Heaven and earth exploded. The combined attack of 3 Immortal Realm experts landed on the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader. If she had been prepared, it would have been fine. However, she did not expect the 3 sect leaders to launch a sneak attack on her. Even though she had opened her 3rd gate of heaven, facing the combined attack of 3 Immortal Realm experts, it still caused her to spit out a mouthful of blood. A piercing sound of bones breaking could be heard from her chest. Junior sister? Tong Ming Sect Leader's eyes were bloodshot as he charged madly towards the 3 sect leaders. However, Dark North Sect Leader was already prepared. He also sent a palm strike towards Tong Ming Sect Leader. Both of their cultivation bases were about the same. After this exchange, both of them were pushed back. However, the ice mountain beneath their feet was reduced to dust. Kill her! Dark North Sect Leader roared. The 2 sect leaders' faces were ferocious as they charged madly towards the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader. Dark North Sect Leader, you dog! You dare to scheme against me? Tong Ming Sect Leader roared furiously. He had not expected Dark North Sect Leader to be even more cunning than him. He had actually launched a sneak attack on the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader. Rumble! Tong Ming Sect Leader exploded with a dark light, causing the entire sky to change color. His eyes were bloodshot as he engaged in a fierce battle with Dark North Sect Leader. However, on the other side, the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader was in an extremely wretched state. She was bitterly defending against the attacks of the 2 sect leaders. If she had not suffered the combined attack of the 3 undying beings, with her 3rd gate of heaven cultivation base, it would be easy for her to fight against the 2 sect leaders. Even killing them would not be a problem. However, she had suffered the combined attack of the 3 undying beings, causing her to lose half of her life. If not for her cultivation base being extremely strong, the combined attack of the 3 undying beings would have taken her life. However, she was in a very passive state now. She was constantly coughing out blood, and her body was filled with cracks. Even her soul within her sea of consciousness was in intense pain. If this continued, even if the 2 sect leaders did not kill her, she would be killed by her own injuries. Want to kill me? You guys are still too early. The sage Tong Ming Sect Leader roared as she coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her entire body was covered in blood mist as she actually used the blood escape technique to escape. As someone who had opened the 3rd gate of heaven, the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader naturally had a life-saving trump card. This blood escape technique was extremely powerful. Although it would exhaust her cultivation base, it would definitely save her life. Seeing his junior sister use the blood escape technique, Tong Ming Sect Leader finally heaved a sigh of relief. He angrily attacked Dark North Sect Leader and wanted to meet up with the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader and leave this place first. However, before he could do anything, the following scene caused him to be completely terrified. An indescribable fear grew in his heart. Rumble! 5 jade-like fingers landed on the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader's head, directly shattering the blood escape technique she had just used. The goddess sect leader silently appeared beside the sage Tong Ming Sect Leader. Her expression was calm and cold. Seal. How strong was the goddess sect leader? She was stronger than the two sect leaders and was only half a step away from opening the fourth gate of heaven. Her attack suppressed the sage Tong Ming sect leader and sealed her victory. Chapter 1470. Fellow Taoist holy maiden, what are you doing? Tong Ming roared in fear. He looked at goddess sect leader with fear, then turned to Dark North sect leader with a sudden realization. A horrifying thought appeared in his mind. Could it be? Could it be that the two of them had planned this from the start? They wanted to eliminate the Saintess first and deal a heavy blow to my Tong Ming sect's strength? Tong Ming, you are truly foolish. Our three sects are like fire and water. How can I work with you to offend Yi Tian? Dark North sect leader sneered. Fellow Taoist holy maiden, after killing this bitch, you and I will work together to kill Tong Ming and destroy the entire Tong Ming sect. From then on, our two sects will be the only ones in the northern region. Dark North sect leader said excitedly. Unfortunately, the Holy Maiden sect leader only glanced at Dark North sect leader and Tong Ming sect leader before disappearing with the Saintess. Damn it! Tong Ming sect leader roared. What was this woman thinking? Could it be that she had made some kind of deal with Yi Tian? Dark North sect leader immediately calmed down. His heart trembled as a bad feeling rose in his heart. Dark North sect leader had made a deal with Yi Xian to kill the Saintess. Yi Xian had also said that someone would help him at the critical moment. He didn't expect that person to be the Holy Maiden sect leader. Clearly, this Holy Maiden sect leader had also made some kind of deal with Yi Xian. Dark North sect leader was very confident in his judgment. However, today's matter made Dark North sect leader feel a chill in his heart. He was even more afraid of Yi Xian. No, this Yi Tian is too cunning. It is as if everything is under his control. He actually treated the three of us as chess pieces. This person cannot be underestimated. At this moment, Dark North sect leader was no longer in the mood to pay attention to Tong Ming sect leader. His heart was extremely heavy. He vaguely guessed that Yi Xian also wanted the heaven-shattering cauldron. Dark North, I will remember today's matter. If I don't take revenge, I am not a man. Tong Ming sect leader roared with hatred and directly fled. After all, Dark North sect leader still had two supreme elders by his side. He naturally didn't dare to stay for long in a situation where the enemy was strong. Go! The Dark North hierarch's face was grim. He called out to the two high elders and left as well. However, he could already sense that Yi Xian was an extremely dangerous person and was thinking about how to deal with him. Snow Bamboo Peak. Bang. With a loud bang, the Saintess smashed into the ground, coughing out a mouthful of blood. She was clearly dispirited. I've brought the person you want. I hope you can keep your promise. The goddess sect master left as quickly as she came. She took a deep look at Yi Xian before stepping out and vanishing into a stream of light. Yi Xian. As he watched the goddess sect leader leave, a smile of praise appeared on his face. Only then did he look at the Saintess, who was lying on the ground. Green Ghost, come out. Yi Xian said. Taoist Green Ghost silently appeared beside Yi Xian. However, he stared at the Saintess with a vicious gaze. An extremely cruel and sinister smile appeared on his face. You can take revenge however you want. Even if you make her suffer a fate worse than death, it's fine. However, I want you to remember one thing. Keep her alive. She is very useful to me. Yi Xian waved his hand. Plop. Taoist Green Ghost knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Yi Xian. Sect leader's kindness, Green Ghost will never forget it. Yi Xian waved his hand. Many thanks, sect leader. Taoist Green Ghost slowly got up. However, his hand suddenly grabbed the Saintess' hair and pulled off her veil, revealing her peerless appearance. The Saintess Tong Ming's appearance was very beautiful. Even when compared to the goddess sect leader, she wasn't inferior. However, Yi Xian only glanced at her indifferently before losing all interest. Taoist Green Ghost's face was filled with viciousness. He grabbed the Saintess' hair and dragged her on the ground. He did not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. The two of them gradually left. No! Miserable cries came from the distance. accompanied by the saintess' cries. No one knew what Taoist green ghost did to the saintess. However, it was obvious that it was extremely cruel. "Mister, I'm afraid that green ghost will kill this woman." Fatso Huang heard the commotion and came over. Even with his sinister personality, Fatso Huang's face turned pale at the sight of Taoist green ghost's vicious methods. Hatred can drive a person crazy. However, green ghost knows his limits. Since I've asked him to spare this woman's life, she should be able to live on. Yi Xian said calmly. Ice. Fatso Huang sighed. He could only pray for the saintess to live on her own. The tragic cries lasted for 7 days. When there were no more signs of life, Taoist green ghost brought the saintess back. But when Yi Xian saw the state of the saintess, he could not help but take in a deep breath. Her flesh was mangled and her limbs were severed. This was especially the case for the saintess' face. It had lost all semblance of a human. These 7 days of torture were worse than death for the saintess. "Kill me, please, kill me." The saintess cried out weakly. "You guys can leave now." Yi Xian waved his hand, and Fatso Huang and Taoist green ghost left. Yi Xian bent down and frowned at the saintess. "You won't be able to live on. But there are many ways to die. I can give you a quick death. But you have to answer my questions. If you lie, I'll hand you over to green ghost again." What do you want to ask?" The saintess knew that she was dead for sure. She was already severely injured from the combined attack of 3 undying beings. Then she was tortured by Taoist green ghost. She was already in a state of death. The saintess was filled with hatred. She could not wait to kill Yi Xian. She hated Tong Ming even more. Why did he invite the other 2 sect leaders? Otherwise, how could she have ended up in such a state? Without needing Yi Xian to speak, the saintess directly told him about the situation of the underworld sect. She even mentioned that old demon Bei Mang was rushing over. Right now, she only wanted Yi Xian and the people from the 3 sects to die together. "Yitian, so what if you're cunning? Do you think you can get the heaven-breaking cauldron with these schemes? Do you think you can wipe out the 3 sects by yourself? Stop dreaming. The 3 great sect masters are all existences that have opened the 3rd gate of heaven. That old devil Bei Mang is definitely stronger than the 3 great sect masters. I want to see how you will die when the time comes." Sage Tong Ming roared with hatred. "Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to see it." Yi Xian said indifferently, "Do you know why I asked Green Ghost to spare your life? Actually, the reason is very simple. An immortal stage cultivator who has opened the 3rd gate of heaven is a great tonic in itself. If I were to kill you for nothing, wouldn't it be a waste of heaven's treasures?" Yi Xian laughed evilly. Chapter 1471. What are you planning to do? Seeing the evil smile on Yi Xian's face, although the saintess had already prepared herself for death, she still shivered and her eyes filled with fear. "What am I planning to do?" The evil smile on Yi Xian's face became even wider. "Naturally, I'm going to swallow you. Swallow the heavens and devour the earth. Tribulation Transcender Transformation." Yi Xian's eyes were fierce and terrifying. A terrifying black fog rose from his body and he let out a fierce roar. The mysteries of the Tribulation Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art were fully released. "No!" The saintess screamed in horror. She finally understood that Yi Xian had cultivated the heaven-devouring demonic art. The reason he didn't kill her was because he wanted to use her as food to increase his own cultivation. The terrifying black fog submerged the saintess. Miserable screams rang out as her flesh and blood rapidly melted away. A large amount of blood soul essence roared out, turning into a long river that rushed into Yi Xian's mouth. Yi Xian continuously swallowed it. Rumble! Yi Xian's body swelled, and his face suddenly became red. The heaven-burying technique crazily operated in his body, and an extremely powerful aura burst out. It had to be known that the saintess was an existence that had opened the 3rd gate of heaven. Although her cultivation couldn't compare to the 3 sect masters, her cultivation was of unimaginable help to Yi Xian. Kakaka! Yi Xian's bones crackled, and his aura soared. His cultivation was originally at the middle stage of the Tao integration realm, but as a muffled sound came from Yi Xian's body, his essence, energy, and spirit underwent a great change. Boom! An extremely terrifying shockwave shot out in all directions with Yi Xian as the center, and the entire snow bamboo peak trembled. After swallowing the Saintess blood soul essence, Yi Xian instantly stepped into the late stage of the Tao integration realm. However, Yi Xian wasn't satisfied. He wanted to reach the peak of the Tao integration realm in one go. The Tribulation Transcender technique and heaven-devouring demonic art were still fully released, and the surging blood soul essence was crazily swallowed by Yi Xian. This state lasted for half a day. Eventually, the Saintess turned into a skeleton, and no more blood energy leaked out. Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of foul air. Yi Xian finally woke up from his devouring cultivation. AI. Yi Xian let out a long sigh. Even though he had swallowed the Saintess blood soul essence, he had only reached the late stage of the Tao integration realm. It was impossible for him to reach the peak of the Tao integration realm. Yi Xian frowned and muttered, "This is a sempiternal realm expert who has opened the third gate of heaven. Even though I only refined 40% of her pure energy, it only allowed me to reach the late stage of the Tao integration realm. When the time comes, I naturally won't sit by and do nothing." Yi Xian chuckled as he put the 2 spatial rings into his bag. Tong Ming's face twitched slightly, and his eyes revealed an extremely pained expression. This was because this was the entire wealth of the Tong Ming school. "Men, send the guest out." Yi Xian waved his hand. Fatso Huang personally sent Tong Ming's sect master away. There was no need to say too much because Yi Xian knew that Tong Ming's sect master wanted nothing more than to grind his bones to dust. However, he didn't dare to fall out with him and could only endure. Before Old Demon North Dark Sect arrived, he had to stabilize Yi Xian. This was because Tong Ming's sect master was afraid that if Yi Xian stood together with the 2 sect masters, he and Tong Ming's sect would be completely destroyed before Old Demon North Dark Sect arrived. Fortunately, this was a war between the 3 sections. Sect Master North Dark Sect and Fairy Sect Master were also enemies. This gave Tong Ming's sect master a chance to catch his breath. As long as he could stabilize Yi Xian, it wasn't too late. Everything would be decided in the meeting of the 3 sects half a year later. On this day, Sect Master North Dark Sect followed closely behind and brought a large amount of cultivation resources. They were all the treasures of North Dark Sect. He was also very respectful to Yi Xian, as if he wanted to befriend Yi Xian. However, after experiencing the matter of Tong Ming Sect's Saintess, Sect Master North Dark Sect was clearly afraid of Yi Xian. He simply talked about the meeting of the 3 sects half a year later and left. In the evening, the 3rd guest arrived at Snow Bamboo Peak. It was the strongest of the 3 sect masters, the Fairy Sect Master. Under the moonlight, the Fairy Sect Master looked at Yi Xian's back and asked, "Yi Daoyu, are you sure he's the one who tricked Hong Wan?" Yi Xian slowly turned around and said, "There's no one else other than him. I've already given you the evidence. As long as you and I work together, not only can we kill him, but the heaven-shattering cauldron will also be ours." "Okay." The Fairy Sect Master slowly nodded and said, "Good. As long as we can kill him, the heaven-shattering cauldron will be shared by both our sections. From then on, there will only be my Fairy Sect and your Northern Celestial Court in the northern region." Chapter 1472. Farewell. The Fairy Sect leader turned to leave, but before she could take 3 steps, Yi Xian's voice came again. "I forgot to tell you something. Old Fiend Beimang will be here half a year later. He is an ally invited by Tong Ming. I will leave him to you." Yi Xian pretended to be casual. "What?" The Fairy Sect leader's expression changed. She suddenly turned to look at Yi Xian with a trace of bewilderment in her eyes. "Old Fiend Beimang?" Yi Xian slowly nodded and said, "Things have gone awry. I didn't expect sect leader Tong Ming to find Old Fiend Beimang, but it doesn't matter. With your cultivation, even if you can't defeat Old Fiend Beimang, he won't be able to do anything to you." "You make it sound so easy. Do you know how powerful Old Fiend Beimang is?" The Fairy Sect leader had always been arrogant, but when Old Fiend Beimang was mentioned, her heart turned heavy. It wasn't that her cultivation was weaker than old fiend Beimang, but that old fiend Beimang's methods were extremely sinister. If she wasn't careful, she would fall into his trap. Back then, Nine Mountain Wanderer was also very powerful. He was also an existence that opened the third heaven gate. But what happened in the end? In the end, old demon Bei Ming had destroyed his origin world and fled. Don't worry. Everything is under my control, Yi Xian said indifferently. The fairy sect leader was slightly astonished. She saw great confidence and calmness from Yi Xian. She didn't know why Yi Xian was so confident, but since their cooperation had already begun, they could only continue. Finally, the fairy sect leader also left Snow Bamboo Peak, leaving only Yi Xian standing proudly on the mountain peak. However, his eyes were abnormally deep, and no one knew what he was thinking. Buzz. Suddenly, Yi Xian moved. As he gently waved his sleeves, ripples bloomed in the void. A large number of saint items appeared, piling up to the height of 4 small mountains. Spiritual light soared into the sky and medicinal fragrance assailed his nostrils. All kinds of rare pills and spirit essences were presented before Yi Xian's eyes, causing Yi Xian's lips to curve into a smile. Holy treasures, heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and all kinds of divine pills that are hard to find in this world. These are all the assets of the Dark Transcendence sect and the North Nether sect. I wonder if they can help me complete the Tao integration stage and usher in the immortal divine tribulation. Yi Xian murmured with excitement in his eyes. Clicked. Yi Xian flicked his sleeve and took the resources of the 2 sects once more. These were the resources he needed to advance into the immortal realm, so they were naturally extremely precious to Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Yi Xian did not have the time to devour these treasures because the meeting between the 3 sects would begin in half a year. Half a year was not enough for Yi Xian. Moreover, old demon Bei Mang was rushing over. To be able to make the goddess sect leader fear him meant that this old demon Bei Mang was extremely terrifying. Yi Xian naturally wouldn't ignore him. Fatso Huang, Yi Xian called out softly. Mr. Fatso Huang quietly appeared behind Yi Xian and waited for Yi Xian's further instructions. I'm going on a long trip and will definitely return within half a year. You will be in charge of all matters of the Northern Region Celestial Court, Yi Xian said. Don't worry, Mr. Fatso Huang bowed. He did not ask where Yi Xian was going. If Yi Xian wanted to tell him, he would tell him without him asking. Yi Xian took a step forward and disappeared. As for where Yi Xian was going, only he knew. Time flowed like water and passed in the blink of an eye. Half a year quickly passed and the conference of the 3 sects was about to begin. Finally, right before the conference of the 3 sects, Yi Xian returned to the Northern Region Celestial Court. This allowed everyone in the Celestial Court to heave a sigh of relief. No one knew where Yi Xian went or what Yi Xian did. However, Yi Xian was still calm and confident after returning to the Celestial Court. This gave the Northern Region Celestial Court a boost of confidence. The conference of the 3 sects. Or rather, it was the final battle between the 3 sections. The conference of the 3 sects was set to begin at the Snowy Plains. This was also the location of the final battle between the 3 sections. The Snowy Plains. It had always been the battlefield of the Northern Region. It covered an area of hundreds of millions of miles. Not a single blade of grass grew in this place. It was freezing cold and covered in snow all day long. Even the ground was formed by ice crystals. Icy peaks that pierced the sky rose from the ground and one could not see the end of it. The conference of the 3 sects, a battle to the death. This time, it was different from the past. The 3 sects had turned out in full force. From the sect masters to the ordinary disciples, everyone had gathered and headed towards the Snowy Plains. The sky shook and dark clouds covered the sky. The war drums of the 9 heavens were beating, and the sounds of killing spread out. The entire northern region was infected by this somber atmosphere. This was a grand event that attracted the attention of the entire world, and it would be forever recorded in the history of the northern region. The Snowy Plains. The black mass of people was like a swarm of locusts that covered the entire sky. The deafening war drums resounded between heaven and earth. The people of the 3 sects were facing each other on the dome. The three sect masters were wearing their sect master robes and exuded a supreme divine aura. Rumble. The wind and clouds gathered and the void exploded. Just the confrontation of the three sects on the dome had already erupted with a shocking power that caused the void to tremble. Tongming, you still dare to come? Dark North sect master roared. Killing intent surged from his body. Dark North, I advise you to hand over the heavenly shattering cauldron. Otherwise, your Dark North sect will be destroyed today. Tongming sneered. His face was brimming with unprecedented confidence. Dark North, it's already come to this point. Just hand over the heavenly shattering cauldron. Why do you insist on denying it? The fairy sect master interjected coldly. What a joke! What heavenly shattering cauldron? My Dark North sect doesn't have such an item. Dark North sect master flatly denied. Even at the final moment, he would never admit that the heavenly shattering cauldron was in his hands. Although the heavenly shattering cauldron is good, you must have the ability to obtain it. Could it be that you're willing to give up the foundation of your Dark North sect for a heavenly shattering cauldron? Tongming shouted. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Not to mention that my Dark North sect doesn't have the heavenly shattering cauldron. Even if we did have such a divine item, do you think my Dark North sect would hand it over? Dark North sect master roared. Alright, let's cut the crap. Today, I'll destroy your Dark North sect. Let's see if you'll hand over the heavenly shattering cauldron or not. Tongming shouted. He waved his hand and the millions of disciples of Tongming sect roared. Killing intent filled the sky as if they were going to fight with the entire sect in the next moment. Do you think my Dark North sect is afraid of you? The Dark North sect leader raised his hand. Behind him, millions of Dark North sect members roared furiously as well. A murderous aura burst forth from them. The fairy sect master was the calmest. However, the fairy sect master had the least number of disciples. Moreover, they were all women. There were only a few 100,000 of them. However, they were all elites. At this moment, their killing intent was concealed as they waited for the fairy sect master's order. Because his allies had arrived, no one would be able to stop him from obtaining the heaven-shattering cauldron. Dao friend Tongming, what do you mean by this? Yi Xian's face turned cold and his voice became a little unfriendly. At this point, Tongming sect master no longer had any scruples. He directly shed all pretense of cordiality and sneered, Yitian, don't think that I don't know what you're planning. You've received so many benefits from our three sects and you only want to take advantage of the chaos to obtain the heaven-shattering cauldron. Do you really think that we're fools? Dark North, this person has ulterior motives. Do you really think that he will help you sincerely? Tongming sect master sneered and broke the final barrier. He also completely dragged Yi Xian into the war between the three sections. At this moment, Dark North sect master was silent. How could he not know that Yi Xian was not a kind person? However, he could only watch and wait for the best opportunity to make a move. Tongming, looks like you dare to fall out with me now. You must have enough confidence, right? Yi Xian said indifferently. Yi Tian, you think that you're smart, but you're too confident. Let's not talk about the result of the war between the three sects today. I can guarantee that before the war starts, you'll die here first. Tongming sect master sneered. Dao friend Bei Mang, please come out. At this moment, Tongming sect master was extremely confident. His face was filled with excitement and viciousness. He looked at Yi Xian with eyes filled with terrifying killing intent. The war between the three sects was only a battle for benefits. It was only caused by the heaven-shattering cauldron. However, the person that Tongming sect master wanted to kill was definitely Yi Xian. An owl-like laughter rang out, and a young man in a black robe quietly appeared. His skin was fair, and he had a handsome appearance. However, his eyes were extremely sinister, and his lips were as black as ink, causing people to feel a great chill in their hearts when they looked at him. Old Demon Bei Mang? Boom. Sect Master Bei Mang could no longer remain calm. He looked at Old Demon Bei Mang with fear in his eyes. His expression had become extremely solemn. He had never imagined that Tongming sect master would actually invite Old Demon Bei Mang. Not only was old demon Bei Mang's cultivation terrifying, but he was also an extremely difficult person to deal with. If Tongming's sect master joined forces with him today, sect master Bei Mang would be in danger. The fairy sect master frowned slightly. Although she had already heard from Yi Xian that old demon Bei Mang would appear, her eyes still trembled when she saw him in person. A solemn look flashed across her eyes. Yitian? Old demon Bei Mang smiled sinisterly and slowly walked toward Yi Xian. He sized up Yi Xian and a strange look flashed across his eyes. I was wondering why Tongming would dare to fall out with me. So it turns out that he invited external help, Yi Xian said indifferently. Haha. Old demon Bei Mang laughed sinisterly. Taoist Tongming and I are good friends. Since he's in trouble today, I naturally have to come. However, you're merely a Dao integration realm cultivator. Do you think you're qualified to sit with me? Taoist Bei Mang, kill him. Tongming's sect master roared coldly. He waved his hand and the two immortal realm elders approached Yi Xian. He instantly appeared beside old demon Bei Mang and released a terrifying killing intent toward Yi Xian. Tongming's sect master had wanted to kill Yi Xian for a long time. Only by killing Yi Xian would he be able to join forces with old demon Bei Mang to deal with the two sections. Otherwise, if Yi Xian took advantage of the situation in the end, Tongming's sect master definitely didn't want to see that happen. Tongming, you can't kill me. Facing Tongming's sect master's killing intent, Yi Xian smiled disdainfully. He didn't show the slightest bit of fear. Even though old demon Bei Mang had already released a surging devilish light and had joined forces with Tongming's sect master to lock onto Yi Xian's aura, it didn't affect Yi Xian at all. Little brat Yi Tian, you're the most arrogant person this sect master has ever seen. However, arrogance requires the ability to back it up. Your arrogance has already doomed you to die without a burial ground today. Tongming's sect master sneered. Taoist Bei Mang, kill him. In the next moment, Tongming's sect master's killing intent surged. When he called for old demon Bei Mang to attack, he released a terrifying might and slapped his palm toward Yi Xian's head. Tongming's sect master was very confident that Yi Xian would die without a doubt if he joined forces with old demon Bei Mang. It was as if he could already see Yi Xian dying miserably. An extremely sinister smile appeared on his face. Idiot! Facing Tongming's attack, Yi Xian didn't dodge in the slightest. Instead, he indifferently spat out these two words. However, the scene that appeared in the next moment caused the people from the three sects to fall silent. Bang! What? A miserable shriek rang out. Tongming's sect master spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. His heart was pierced through by a sharp sword. A large amount of blood flowed out from his heart as he crashed into the clouds. Chapter 1474. Who is he going to kill? This was an obvious question, and also a question without a doubt. The one he was going to kill was naturally Yi Xian. There was no doubt about it, and it was something that everyone could see. When everyone was worried for Yi Xian and thought that Yi Xian was going to die, the situation suddenly reversed. Yo! It was an accident. Please don't blame me. An awkward expression appeared on old demon North Sea's face as he apologized profusely. The sword in his hand was still stained with Tongming's blood as he hurriedly walked towards Tongming. What? After a short period of deathly silence, the three sects went into an uproar. No one would have thought that old devil Bei Mang wouldn't attack Yi Xian, but instead viciously sneak attack Tongming, who was fighting side by side with him. Protect Tongming. Without waiting for old demon Northern Mang to approach, the two elders of Transcendence Cult instantly stood in front of Transcendence Cult Master. Their faces were pale as they looked at old demon Northern Mang in panic. At the same time, the entire Transcendence Cult activated the Grand Array, instantly protecting Transcendence Cult Master in layers. Ayaya, it was an accident. Please don't blame me. Old Devil Beiming apologized again and again. His face was filled with guilt. However, the sword in his hand was emitting a gloomy demonic light. As he continued to slash, the demonic light and evil aura whizzed out. Old demon Northern Mang's attacks were too vicious. Every slash of his sword would take the lives of a large number of Transcendence Cult's disciples. Even the great array set up by Transcendence Cult was in imminent danger. Bastard Baiming! Suddenly, a furious roar rang out from inside Tongming Cult. Tongming Cult leader was glaring at old demon Bei Ming with a hand on his chest. His eyes were filled with resentment and shock. Fellow Taoist Tongming, why are you looking at me like that? You and I have been good friends for many years. Why aren't you opening the array and letting me heal you? Old Devil Northern Mang was extremely concerned, but his attacks became even more vicious. A large number of Transcendence Cult's disciples died under his feet. He charged towards Transcendence Cult's sect master, and that terrifying devil light directly turned a large number of Transcendence Cult's disciples into dust. This? At this moment, the Dark North Hierarch was stunned on the spot. Even the Fairy Hierarch was astonished. What happened just now? Sect Master Tongming had invited old Demon Northern Mang, and the two of them were supposed to work together to kill Yi Xian. So why didn't old Demon Northern Mang kill Yi Xian? Instead, he ambushed Sect Master Tongming and dealt him a fatal blow? Not to mention the two Sect Masters, even Tongming could not understand why old Demon Northern Mang would do such a thing. What good would it do him to launch a sneak attack? Telepathy! Suddenly, Tongming schoolmaster clutched his chest and roared in anger. Blood spurted out from his mouth once more. However, in the next moment he took out a black flag and waved it madly. The grand formation laid down by Tongming School suddenly erupted with a supreme might. The sky-covering Yin light instantly blocked old demon Northern Mang outside. GGG. Blocked by the grand formation of Tongming School, old demon Northern Mang let out a strange laughter like an owl. He slowly raised his hands and condensed two black demonic balls. Streaks of black lightning wreaked havoc on the demonic balls, and an extremely frightening power erupted. Go to hell! In the next moment, old demon Northern Mang let out a sinister cry. The two black demonic balls were shot out by him. This was his signature grand technique, and it was also an extremely vicious grand technique. Bang! Bang! Something terrifying happened. The two black demonic balls collided with each other, and an unimaginable power was generated. Instantly, the heaven and earth turned dark. The terrifying and devastating energy crazily crashed into the grand formation of Tongming School. Kacha! Bang! The heaven and earth exploded, and the myriad of laws were destroyed. The grand formation laid down by Tongming School was instantly shattered. It was unknown how many disciples of Tongming School were annihilated by this grand technique of old demon Northern Mang. One had to admit that old demon Northern Mang, who was also an immortal realm expert who had opened the third heaven gate, was truly terrifying. He could open the fourth heaven gate at any time. It could be said that he was on par with the goddess sect leader. However, old demon Northern Mang was even more terrifying than the goddess sect leader. This was because his methods were extremely vicious. He cultivated an extremely vicious demonic technique, and its destructive power was not something the goddess sect leader could compare with. Bastard Northern Mang, I'm going to kill you! Tongming School leader roared with resentment. He charged towards old demon Northern Mang and sent out his immortal realm grand technique. The two elders of Tongming School followed closely behind. The three of them besieged old demon Northern Mang. You invited me here, but you still want to kill me. It seems like you're not a friend. Old demon Northern Mang let out a sinister laugh. His demonic technique was earth-shattering. Not only did he not fall into a disadvantageous position when fighting against three immortal realm experts, he also sent out three grand demonic techniques consecutively, forcing Tongming School leader and the other two elders to retreat. Blood kept flowing out of their mouths. Bang! 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 Devil palms pierced through the sky, crushing mountains and rivers. Old demon Northern Mang sent out three palm strikes consecutively, sending Tongming School leader and the other two elders flying. The two elders coughed out blood while Tongming School leader staggered back. Blood kept flowing out of the corner of his mouth. Strong. Very strong. Terrifyingly strong. When old demon Northern Mang displayed his methods and cultivation, the two sect leaders who were watching the battle from the side wore solemn expressions. An extremely uneasy feeling rose in their hearts. Only Yi Xian remained calm and indifferent. The corner of his mouth even curled into a strange smile. It was as if he was not surprised by the scene before him. In fact, although old demon Northern Mang was very strong and was only half a step away from opening the fourth heaven gate, he was not strong enough to suppress Tongming school leader and the other two immortal realm experts. It was only because old demon Northern Mang's sneak attack had succeeded and seriously injured Tongming school leader. That was an extremely fatal attack. Therefore, Tongming school leader was at a disadvantage. As for the two elders of Tongming school, although they were also immortal realm experts, they had only opened the first heaven gate. How could they be a match for old demon Northern Mang, who was about to open the fourth heaven gate? Northern Mang, you bastard! I'll fight you to the death! Tongming school leader roared madly. He had already activated his source world. However, old demon Northern Mang was not afraid at all. He also summoned his devil horde world and attacked Tongming school leader. Bang, 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 bang. Chaos filled the world. The howling of the devil horde was accompanied by Tongming school leader's furious roar. Under old demon Northern Mang's terrifying attacks, Tongming school leader was forced to retreat step by step. He was not a match for old demon Northern Mang at all. Boom. Finally, after half a day, Tongming was no longer a match for old devil Bei Ming. He was struck by the devil heavenly giant palm, causing him to spit out a large amount of blood. His broken body fell to the ground. Bang! Tongming school leader was heavily smashed into the clouds. However, before he could struggle to get up, old demon Northern Mang instantly appeared in front of him and lifted him up. He took a step forward and arrived in front of Yi Xian. Chapter 1475. Brother Yi, what do you think of this gift? Old demon Bei Ming casually tossed Tongming at Yi Xian's feet with a kind smile on his face. It was as if he was Yi Xian's best friend. Many thanks, old demon Bei Ming. If not for old demon Bei Ming's help, this person would have been troublesome. Yi Xian chuckled and similarly bowed to old demon Bei Mang. Brat, old demon Bei Mang, the two of you will not have a good death. Tongming coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. He had suffered a fatal blow from old demon Bei Mang's sneak attack and endured a bitter battle. Now that his cultivation had fallen to rock bottom, how could he be a match for Yi Xian and old demon Bei Mang? Tisk tsk tsk. Yi Xian helplessly shook his head and slowly walked to Tongming's side. He looked down at him with an extremely pitiful expression and said, "Calling you a dog is not wrong. Look at your current appearance. Aren't you worse than a dog? Pitiful, lamentable, and even more lamentable. I gave you a chance to be a human, but you insisted on being a dog. Moreover, you are a dog that wants to bite people. Do you know what the consequences of being a dog that bites people are? Yeon brat, you will not have a good death." Tongming knew that he was finished. Facing Yi Xian's humiliation, he roared and madly circulated the essence blood in his body. He wanted to self-detonate in front of Yi Xian. You want to self-detonate? Yi Xian's face was filled with disdain. He suddenly stomped his right foot on Tongming's face. Following a terrifying sound, half of Tongming's head caved in. His swollen body deflated like a deflated balloon. Look at your cowardly appearance. You want to kill me with just you alone? Even if I give you another Yuan Hui, you will still be a dead dog under my foot. Yi Xian said sinisterly. A gourd appeared with a flip of his hand. As Yi Xian pulled out the cork, Tongming was sucked into the gourd. After Yi Xian finished doing all of this, old devil Bei Mang's eyes narrowed slightly, but the smile on his face didn't decrease. On the other hand, the Dark North sect leader and the Fairy sect leader had heavy expressions. It was obvious that they were extremely fearful of Yi Xian and old devil Bei Mang joining forces. Suddenly Yi Xian waved his hand, and all the experts of the Celestial Court of the Northern Territory rushed towards the Dark Church. The two sempiternal elders knew that the situation was hopeless. Even their sect master had fallen into Yi Xian's hands. How could they resist? They only wanted to escape from this battlefield as soon as possible. It was a pity. Without waiting for the two elders to escape, Yi Xian mysteriously appeared in front of them. A giant palm stretched across the void and slammed down on the two elders. Bang! How terrifying was Yi Xian's battle prowess! Even though he was only at the Dao integration stage, he wasn't someone the two elders of the Nether Passage School could compare to. This attack instantly suppressed the two elders, and as the treasured gourd in Yi Xian's hand turned upside down, the two elders were also sucked into the gourd. Ah! Go to hell! Kill! Yi Xian stood on the dome with the gourd in his hand. Northern Mang stood side by side with him. Below them, the battle cries of the Northern Territory Celestial Court and the Dark Church shook the heavens. However, the Dark Church had long been defeated. They were completely massacred by the Northern Territory Celestial Court. Especially the four sempiternal elders of the Northern Territory Celestial Court. These four were like tigers among a flock of sheep. They slaughtered the members of the Dark Church in a frenzy. In less than half a day, the entire Dark Church was wiped out. Since then, the Dark Transcendence Church had completely disappeared from the Northern Star Field. This was simply unbelievable. At this moment, Dark North Sect leader and the two Grand Elders had solemn expressions. Everyone in the Dark North Sect was also on high alert. The Dark Church had disappeared in the blink of an eye. This was something unimaginable for the Dark North Sect. Although everyone was prepared for the destruction of their sect in this war between the three sects, no one expected that the Dark Church would be destroyed by Yi Xian's Northern Territory Celestial Court instead of the other two sections. When the Sandpiper and the Clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Sit on the mountain and watch the tiger head. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. All kinds of words appeared in Dark North Sect leader's mind. He knew that things were getting tricky now. Taoist Dark North. Suddenly, Yi Xian and Northern Mang walked side by side toward Dark North Sect leader. Sect leader Yi. Dark North Sect leader lowered his posture to the extreme. He bowed toward Yi Xian with a kind smile on his face. However, his heart was in turmoil because he could feel that Yi Xian was about to attack him. However, Dark North Sect leader wasn't too afraid. After all, he was an existence that had opened the third gate of heaven. He also had the two Grand Elders behind him. The entire Dark North Sect was here. He could resist Northern Mang by himself. The two Grand Elders were existences that had opened the second gate of heaven. Yi Xian might not have an easy time against the two of them. Moreover, Dark North Sect leader wasn't an idiot like Dark North Sect leader. He wasn't seriously injured. Therefore, even if Yi Xian joined forces with Northern Mang, their Dark North Sect might not be at a disadvantage. Most importantly, there was the Goddess Sect leader. Dark North Sect leader's fate was a warning bell. If Northern Mang and Yi Xian joined forces to attack his Dark North Sect, then the Goddess Sect would be next. Therefore, Dark North Sect leader was sure that the Goddess Sect leader would join forces with him to fight against Yi Xian. Taoist Dark North, hand over the heaven-shattering cauldron. I can let your Dark North Sect live. At this point, Yi Xian no longer had anything to hide. He directly bared his ferocious fangs and began to demand the heaven-shattering cauldron from Dark North Sect leader. Yi Dao Yu, don't joke around. The heaven-shattering cauldron isn't even in my Dark North Sect. How can this sect leader take it out? Dark North Sect leader was neither haughty nor humble. He refused to admit that the heaven-shattering cauldron was in his hands. Oh! Yi Xian smiled and said, back then, I saw the heaven-shattering cauldron with my own eyes in the Dark North Divine Palace. Now, Taoist says that it isn't in your hands. Could it be that my eyes are blind? It's you? Dark North Sect leader was startled at first. Then, he suddenly looked at Yi Xian with a sinister look. He finally knew who was the one who snuck into the Dark North Divine Palace to steal the heaven-shattering cauldron. It turned out that it was Yi Xian who was standing before him. Dark North, I advise you not to make a mistake. Hand over the heaven-shattering cauldron. Otherwise, not only will you die today, everyone in your Dark North Sect will die as well. Old Devil North Sea spoke with a sinister voice. Boom. Old Devil North Sea and Yi Xian stepped out at the same time. Their terrifying auras pressed down on Dark North Sect leader. Dark North Sect leader's expression changed greatly. His body also erupted with a terrifying aura to resist. Old Devil North Sea was already stronger than Dark North Sect leader. At this moment, with Yi Xian added in, Dark North Sect leader was directly pressured. You want the heaven-shattering cauldron? Dream on. Dark North Sect leader's expression flickered. A sinister roar came from his mouth. With a flip of his hand, a small cauldron appeared in his hand. He retreated to the center of the Dark North Sect and glared at Yi Xian and Yi Xian through the crowd of disciples. One had to admit that the two supreme elders of Dark North Sect were extremely loyal. At this critical moment, they were willing to risk their lives for Dark North Sect leader. Both of them unleashed their undying might and charged towards Yi Xian and Feng Bujua. Scram! The old demon of Northern Mang roared furiously. He formed a demonic seal with both hands and smashed it out. This attack contained 80% of his cultivation base. It even caused the space to explode as it sent the two elders in front of him flying. The two supreme elders spurted out a mouthful of blood. Even though they had opened the second gate of heaven, they were still unable to stop someone as terrifying as old demon Baiming. Withdraw. Suddenly, a shadow appeared before the two supreme elders. It was Yi Xian, who was staring at them with a sinister expression. He had already opened the gourd in his hand and an extremely terrifying suction force sucked the two supreme elders into the gourd. At this critical moment, old demon Baimang let out a cry of bewilderment. He was very puzzled by Yi Xian's actions. However, he didn't have the time to figure out why Yi Xian was doing this. Instead, he charged towards Hierarch Baiming. After all, the heaven-shattering cauldron was what he wanted. On the other hand, Yi Xian's expression was calm. He gently put away the gourd and revealed a strange smile that others couldn't understand. 3. Yi Xian murmured. His eyes flickered slightly. Then he vaguely glanced around. When he saw the fairy sect leader's gaze, he nodded slightly as if he was hinting at something. Demonic dance. Roar! Dark light surged out of Northern Mang's body as terrifying shreds of shadows separated from his body. These shreds of shadows were creepy and scary, and carried a strong smell of blood. At the moment, these shreds of shadows were madly pouncing on Dark North. Bang! 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 On the other hand, Hierarch Baiming was retreating as he fought. All kinds of immortal great arts were used in a domineering manner. Although old demon Baiming's cultivation base was terrifying, Hierarch Baiming was also a terrifying figure who had opened the third gate of heaven. His battle prowess was definitely not to be underestimated. Brother Yi, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and attack. Old demon Baiming couldn't take down Hierarch Baiming in a short period of time. This caused him to turn his eyes towards Yi Xian and ask for help. Boom! Yi Xian arrived in a flash. The heaven-punishing halberd went straight for Hierarch Baiming's forehead. This attack shook the mountains and rivers. The beam of light illuminated the sky and earth. Hierarch Baiming's expression changed drastically. A snow-white heavenly blade appeared in his hand. He hastily slashed towards Yi Xian. Clang! The blade and halberd collided. The void collapsed. The terrifying power instantly sent Yi Xian and Hierarch Baiming flying. This also gave old demon Baiming an excellent opportunity to attack Hierarch Baiming with a vicious great art. Bang! Demonic light surged violently. This attack landed on Hierarch Baiming's shoulder, causing him to stagger. However, he also suffered a great injury. Give it to me. With a successful strike, old demon Baiming showed up in front of Hierarch Baiming while laughing wildly. He reached a giant hand towards the cauldron. But before he could touch the cauldron, a slim hand suddenly reached towards his head. You dare! Old demon Baiming's expression changed. He had no choice but to give up on snatching the heaven-shattering cauldron. Bang! There was a sky-piercing explosion. The heaven and earth exploded. This attack caused the clouds to collapse. The two figures were also sent flying. Goddess sect leader, are you courting death? Old demon Baiming instantly stabilized his body. He looked at goddess sect leader with a vicious expression. She was the one who attacked him. Otherwise, the heaven-shattering cauldron would have fallen into his hands. You want the heaven-shattering cauldron? Have you asked for my permission? Goddess sect leader strolled through the void. Extremely terrifying fluctuations rippled out, giving old demon Baiming immense pressure. In terms of cultivation, old demon Baiming was indeed a level higher than hierarch Baiming. However, he was only on par with goddess sect leader. Now that goddess sect leader had appeared out of nowhere, old demon Baiming immediately felt that the situation had become troublesome. In the next moment, Yi Xian appeared beside old demon Baiming, standing opposite the goddess sect leader and hierarch Baiming. Old demon Baiming immediately heaved a sigh of relief. After all, he and Yi Xian were still allies. Taoist goddess, as long as you help me out of danger, the heaven-shattering cauldron will be shared by both our sections. If I die, the next person they will kill will be you. Hierarch Baiming instantly appeared beside goddess sect leader and let out a sinister roar. He was also reminding goddess sect leader of the current situation. All right. Goddess sect leader nodded slowly. Even without hierarch Baiming's reminder, she could see the current situation. Chapter 1477. Brother Yi, I'll deal with this bitch. I'll leave Dark North to you. Old demon Baiming flipped his hand and a demonic saber appeared in his hand. A terrifying demonic aura bloomed. Clearly he was ready to kill. All right. The same word came from Yi Xian's mouth. Attack! Yi Xian roared and swung his heaven-punishing halberd. Old demon Baiming also raised his demonic saber. The fairy sect leader and Dark North sect leader both activated their immortal great techniques. A shocking battle was about to begin. Boom! But a moment later, an extremely strange scene appeared. The target of Yi Xian's halberd wasn't the Dark North sect leader, but the old devil Baiming beside him. The fairy sect leader didn't attack the old devil Baiming, but instead turned around and attacked the Dark North sect leader. I knew something was wrong. Do you think I'm an idiot like Tongming? Old demon Baiming suddenly roared. The demonic saber in his hand suddenly changed direction and slashed at Yi Xian. On the other side, Dark North sect leader didn't say anything, but he also attacked the fairy sect leader. Clang, bang. 2 consecutive explosions rang out. Yi Xian clashed with old demon Baiming with his halberd. On the other side, the fairy sect leader and Dark North sect leader were also forced to retreat. The next moment, Yi Xian and the fairy sect leader walked together. On the other hand, old demon Baiming arrived in front of Dark North sect leader with his demonic saber. The two looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. With the lesson from Tongming, old demon Baiming and Dark North sect leader didn't trust anyone. Although Yi Xian and the fairy sect leader's sneak attack wasn't within their expectations, they were still on guard. Brother Yi, I knew you were up to no good. But aren't you a little too impatient? Old demon Baiming looked at Yi Xian with a sinister gaze. Same here. Even if I didn't attack, you would have killed me first, right? Yi Xian smiled faintly. If I knew you were so ambitious, I wouldn't have agreed to kill Tongming first. I should have worked with them to kill you first. Old demon Baiming said sinisterly. Hee hee. Yi Xian laughed. He laughed disdainfully and said, You're just being greedy. If it wasn't for the fact that Trash Tongming was too weak, why would you be willing to cooperate with me? Half a year. And Yi Xian's persuasion. With Yi Xian's persuasion, old demon Baiming and old Yi. And Baiming with Yi. After a long and Yi with him. The talk. Baiming joined Yi, and Baiming. This was why old demon Baiming had plotted against sect master Tongming. It was because he chose to work with Yi Xian. However, the two of them knew that the other party wasn't a good person. The so-called cooperation was only temporary, and they could secretly attack each other at any time. However, old demon Baiming didn't expect that Yi Xian would actually choose to make the first move. This had indeed caught him off guard. Furthermore, what old demon Baiming didn't expect the most was that Yi Xian had actually secretly joined forces with the goddess sect leader. If he and the Dark North sect leader had been successfully ambushed by the two of them, they would have definitely fallen into Yi Xian's hands today. Kill Tongming first, then Baiming. When I'm the only one left, you can join forces with the fairy sect master to kill the enemy. Brat, you really have a good plan. Old demon Baiming sneered. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't react to old demon Beimang's mockery at all. It was as if Yi Xian didn't see anything wrong with his failure. Fellow Taoist fairy, I'll leave Beimang to you. Once you suppress him, we'll work together to kill old demon Beimang. Yi Xian said. As soon as Yi Xian finished speaking, the expressions of the Dark North sect leader and old devil Beimang both changed. Their gazes towards Yi Xian were filled with extremely sharp killing intent. The two of them didn't think that Yi Xian would be so sinister. Fellow Taoist fairy, as long as you're willing to work with me, we can share the heaven-shattering cauldron. Sect Master Beimang hurriedly persuaded the fairy sect master. Beimang, do you still recognize me? Suddenly, a ray of light shot over. It was Scarlet Witch glaring at Sect Master Beimang. Sect Master Beimang was stunned as a trace of bewilderment flashed through his eyes. Who are you? Sect Master Beimang shouted at Scarlet Witch without any change in his expression. If you don't want others to know, don't do it in the first place. Yi Xian lightly smiled as he looked at the Dark North sect leader and said, I remember that the Dark North sect has a secret technique called the Dark North Bewitching Technique. This technique can confuse the mind of others without them knowing about it. Have you forgotten what you did to Qi Lian back then? What nonsense are you talking about? The Dark North hierarch's face was ashen, and his eyes were filled with bewilderment. He couldn't understand how Yi Xian knew about this. Beimang, back then, you tricked my martial nephew into killing his master and fellow sect members in order to steal our sect's secret art. Since you dared to do it, why don't you admit it? Sect Master Qin Han asked. Fellow Taoist, don't fall for his trick. He is trying to provoke a fight between us. Sect Master Beimang denied coldly. If I remember correctly, only the sect leader can cultivate the Dark North bewitchment technique. If it wasn't for you, fellow Taoist Dark North, I really can't think of anyone who would know this technique. Furthermore, for this person to be able to sneak into the goddess sect without being discovered, his cultivation must be at least at the immortal realm, right? You? Sect Master Beimang's face turned purple. He wanted to refute Yi Xian's words, but he didn't know how to do so. He could only retreat with a gloomy expression. Clearly, he had admitted to it. Beimang, you used martial nephew Scarlet Witch to steal our sect's secret art. Today, I will kill you and wash away the shame of our sect. Boom. Sect Master Beimang could no longer control her anger. Her slender hand seemed to lift the sky as she unleashed a terrifying might towards Sect Master Beimang. Bang, bang, bang. In the next moment, the goddess sect leader and Dark North hierarch engaged in a fierce battle. Both of them were existences who had opened the third gate of heaven, but the goddess sect leader was only half a step away from opening the fourth gate of heaven. She immediately suppressed Dark North hierarch. Brother Yi, I've really underestimated you. The schemes you've come up with are indeed brilliant, but in the end, it all depends on strength. I advise you to retreat, or else you'll die a miserable death. Old demon Beimang sneered as he pointed his demonic saber at Yi Xian. A glint of killing intent flashed across his eyes. The previous battle between old demon Beimang and Yi Xian had ended in a draw. Although old demon Beimang was shocked that Yi Xian, who was only at the Dao integration stage, could fight him to a standstill, he knew that Yi Xian was still not his match. Dao integration stage was Dao integration stage. Even if Yi Xian had heaven-defying combat strength, he was still at the Dao integration stage. Old demon Beimang was conceited that he was about to open the fourth heaven gate. If they really engaged in a battle to the death, he could destroy Yi Xian in less than half a day. Chapter 1478. It seems like you're very confident in killing me? Yi Xian said with a sinister smile. Seeing Yi Xian's calm attitude, old demon Beimang was in no hurry to attack. Instead, he sneered and said, Brother Yi, the chaotic universe is very, very big. There are too many monstrous geniuses, and there is no lack of people with heaven-defying talent like you. It's not that Dao integration experts haven't killed Eternals before, but if you think you can fight me, then you're really a joke. I can tell you very clearly that in the 10 great eons, even if the strongest of all time can go against Eternals at the Dao-seeking realm before attaining the Dao, they can only go against cultivators who have just reached the Eternals. Anyone who can open the third gate of heaven is a sect master-level figure. Even if you have heaven-defying battle prowess, you're definitely not their match, let alone me. Old demon Beimeng was unbridled and unruly, and he was even giving pointers to Yi Xian. He wasn't speaking arrogantly, but was speaking the truth. If the two of them really fought to the death, Yi Xian wouldn't be old demon Beimeng's match at all. This was because the difference between their realms was too great. Not only was there a difference of one major realm, but there were also 3 minor realms. This kind of difference couldn't be made up for by anything. Unless Yi Xian could use future transformation, he would only need 1 strike to kill old demon Beimeng. Unfortunately, future transformation had too many restrictions. It needed the right time, place, and people to be able to use it. However, Yi Xian wasn't worried. Instead, he looked at old demon Beimeng with deep eyes. This was because he had great confidence. Even if he wasn't old demon Beimeng's match, he definitely wouldn't be defeated and have to flee. Although he was only at Dao integration, Yi Xian's foundation was too deep. In the past 100,000 years, he had devoured too many cultivation resources, and even the Dao of the Nether Passage Saintess. If it had been someone else who had devoured so many cultivation resources, they would have broken through to the immortal realm or even opened the 3rd heavenly gate. However, Yi Xian had only reached the late-stage Dao integration stage and was still a distance away from the perfected stage. However, this also resulted in Yi Xian's terrifying combat power. Even in the face of old demon Beimeng, who was about to open the 4th sky gate, Yi Xian was confident that he could put up a fight against him. Moreover, Yi Xian wanted to test his true strength in this battle and see the difference between him and old demon Northern Mang. As for the heaven-shattering cauldron in Dark North's hands, Yi Xian wasn't in a hurry, because he had more tricks up his sleeve. Come, let me see what you're capable of. You better not disappoint me. Yi Xian gave a sinister smile and beckoned Northern Mang old demon over. If you want to die, then as your elder brother, I can only fulfill your wish. Boom. Terrifying demonic light erupted from old demon Northern Mang's body as the demonic saber in his hand slashed through the void. Thousands of miles of saber light burst out. His attack was earth-shattering, and it was obvious that he wanted to kill Yi Xian in the shortest time possible. At the same time, the heaven-destroying halberd appeared in Yi Xian's hand. A terrifying power of nirvanic annihilation wrapped around the halberd, and the cold tip of the halberd emitted a gloomy light. Instantly, heaven and earth were thrown into chaos, and the entire sky darkened. The power of nirvanic annihilation? Old demon Northern Mang's expression changed slightly, but he calmed down in the next moment. I knew your identity was strange. So you're from the Immortal Heaven Palace. No wonder your combat power is so terrifying even though you're only at the Dao integration stage. It's a pity that even though you're from a supreme orthodoxy, you're still going to die in my hands today. Old demon Northern Mang laughed cruelly. He was definitely not a kind person. Killing someone from a supreme orthodoxy for the heaven-shattering cauldron was nothing to him. Boom. The demonic saber soared across the sky, and the saber radiance destroyed the world. Old demon Northern Mang slashed his saber at Yi Xian, and the saber radiance that spanned tens of thousands of miles seemed to be able to split heaven and earth apart. It carried a terrifying power that could destroy everything as it slashed at Yi Xian. Clang. The power of nirvanic annihilation combined with the power of nirvanic annihilation was extremely terrifying. Even though Yi Xian was only at the Dao integration stage, when he poured his cultivation into the heaven-punishing halberd, the power that erupted from him caused even old devil Beimeng to frown. A trace of fear flashed through his eyes. Rumble. Heaven and earth exploded, and the mountains and rivers were destroyed. Yi Xian struck out with his halberd, and the entire world suddenly darkened. Only a pitch-black chilling radiance could be seen flickering in the sky. It directly shattered old demon Northern Mang's saber radiance, and that terrifying chilling radiance shot towards old demon Northern Mang's glabella. Demonic dance. Old demon Northern Mang roared into the sky. His entire body transformed into tens of thousands of demonic shadows and disappeared, directly dodging the attack of nirvanic annihilation. Chaotic Sky's 7 Slaughter Halberd. The first halberd moves heaven and earth, The second halberd overturns the universe, the third halberd messes up yin and yang, the fourth halberd breaks reincarnation, the seventh halberd suppresses the primal chaos. At this moment, Yi Xian had transformed into a total of 7 figures. Each figure looked exactly like Yi Xian, and their auras were identical. It was impossible to tell the real one from the fake. Chapter 1479. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying explosions rang out as the chaotic sky's 7 slaughtering halberds' power was finally revealed. Every halberd strike contained Yi Xian's absolute power. Coupled with the heaven-punishing halberd and the power of nirvanic extermination, the halberd shattered old demon Baiming's 7 saber lights. Damn it! Old demon Baiming roared in fear. If he were to receive Yi Xian's 7 halberd strikes head-on, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. At this moment, he no longer had any reason to hold back. Demon descends. In the next moment, when the 7 halberds were about to reach him, old demon Baiming let out a ferocious roar. His entire body was covered by a layer of demonic fog. Clearly, this was his life-saving technique. Bang, bang, bang. The chaotic sky's 7 slaughtering halberd was capable of destroying heaven and earth. Furthermore, it was executed with the heaven-punishing halberd and the power of nirvanic extermination. Even though old demon Baiming had executed his life-saving technique, he still suffered an unimaginable blow. Poof! A mouthful of blood spurted out from the demonic fog as old demon Baiming was sent flying. The demonic fog around him quickly dissipated and Yi Xian's 7 figures merged back into one. However, Yi Xian was also gasping for breath. Although the chaotic sky's 7 slaughtering halberd was very powerful, it also consumed a lot of his essence, energy, soul, and cultivation base. Although it was only an instant, it consumed a lot of energy. Not only did it affect one's cultivation base, it also affected one's soul. Even Yi Xian did not dare to use it casually. Time. Yi Xian merely gasped for breath for a moment. Not even a breath's time had passed before the power of time and space surrounded his body. He took a step forward and charged towards old demon Baiming's flying figure, not giving him any chance to catch his breath. Time is like a blade. This time, the power of time and space spread out from the heaven-punishing halberd. The terrifying aura of time reversal flowed. The time and space in this part of the world seemed to be reversing. The heaven-punishing halberd in Yi Xian's hand disappeared as if it had traveled through time and space. It strangely appeared above old demon Baiming halberd and slashed towards him. Demonic escape. Old demon Northern Mang's figure mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind only a bloody shadow. When he reappeared, he was wearing a strange black cloak. However, when he looked at Yi Xian, his eyes were filled with fear. Space-time power? Or you? Old demon Northern Immortal's mind was in complete chaos. He had no time to think about the blow he had just received from the chaotic sky's 7 kills halberd. Blood continued to ooze out of his mouth, but he still asked Yi Xian in terror. Old demon Beimeng wouldn't be surprised if Yi Xian was from the Immortal Heaven Palace. After all, it was only natural that someone with such terrifying combat strength at the Dao integration stage would come from a supreme orthodoxy. However, Yi Xian was able to use the power of time and space. This shocked old demon Baiming to the core. He began to wonder about Yi Xian's identity. A single person with the supreme strength of 2 supreme orthodoxies. This was simply unheard of. Old demon Beimeng wouldn't believe that Yi Xian wasn't strange at all. Good lad, you do have some skills. I've underestimated you. However, do you think that you're a match for me just because you have 2 supreme powers? Today, I'll let you know that a Dao integration stage cultivator is just a Dao integration stage cultivator. In front of me, you're just a dead man. Rumble. Old demon Northern Immortal roared furiously. Terrifying demonic mist rose from his body. The black cloak on his body transformed into streams of black water that wrapped around his body. His originally 7 feet tall body began to swell strangely. 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet, 80 feet. Old demon Beimeng's body had grown by a total of 80 feet. His originally thin and weak body had become extremely swollen. His pitch-black body was as angular as a mountain rock, giving off an extremely explosive feeling. Just a glance at him would cause one's heart to feel extremely cold. 10 feet 8 demonic body. Old demon Northern Immortal let out an extremely ferocious roar. His entire body's aura soared. Even Yi Xian's eyes trembled. An extremely grave expression appeared in his eyes. Terrifying. Too terrifying. With just this transformation, Yi Xian could feel that old demon Northern Immortal's combat strength had increased by 50%. The current old demon Northern Immortal was probably at his peak. Lad, you should feel lucky that you're able to force me to use my demonic body. You should feel honored that you can die under my demonic body. Die! Boom! Old Devil Beimang punched out. His fist was like a small mountain. Although there were no worldly anomalies and no grand arts, the power of this punch was simply earth-shattering because it was infused with Old Devil Beimang's cultivation base. Nirvana Battle Armor. In the next moment, Yi Xian didn't hesitate at all. He immediately summoned the Nirvana Battle Armor and put it on. The heaven-destroying halberd hurriedly blocked in front of him. Bang! One punch. It was just one punch. Old demon Northern Immortal's punch was too terrifying. It was as heavy as the heavens. When it landed on the heaven-destroying halberd, it shook the heaven-destroying halberd out of Yi Xian's hand. Then, the punch landed on Yi Xian's chest. Yi Xian couldn't dodge. He didn't have the time to do so either. This punch had sealed off all his escape routes. He could only brace himself to take on old demon Northern Immortal's attack. Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was sent flying. Fortunately, the Nirvana Battle Armor had blocked most of the power for him. Otherwise, his body would have been shattered by old demon Northern Immortal's punch. The difference was too great. It wasn't a difference in combat strength, but a difference in cultivation realm. This punch was the sum of 3 immortal realm heavenly gates, and it also contained Old Devil Beimang's technique and Tao. After channeling the power of primal chaos into it, even if Yi Xian's physical body was extremely terrifying, he would still suffer heavy injuries from this punch. Tribulation Transcender Transformation. As Yi Xian was sent flying, Old Demon Northern Immortal instantly activated the Tribulation Transcender Transformation. His aura skyrocketed, and he finally stabilized his flying body in midair. He's not dead yet? Seeing that Yi Xian was actually able to survive his all-out attack, Old Devil Beimang looked at him in a daze. He even suspected that he'd used his full strength. Why was Yi Xian able to survive? From the looks of it, he only suffered some light injuries. I don't believe I can't kill you. Boom, 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 boom. Old Demon Northern Immortal strode toward Yi Xian. His body seemed slow, but he ignored the distance between them. In an instant he arrived in front of Yi Xian. 2 mountain-like fists violently smashed toward Yi Xian. Martial law world. You have the demonic body, but Yi Xian also has the martial law world. Buzz. Yi Xian's body shook, and his body began to grow. An extremely obscure death light wrapped around his body. The attack symbol art was operating at a terrifying speed, directly affecting his body. In the next moment, Yi Xian's body swelled to the extreme, transforming into a body of 8 feet. Although the death light was extremely weak, it continued to circulate around his body, giving Yi Xian an extremely mysterious aura. Scram! Yi Xian also swung his fists toward Old Demon Northern Immortal. Along with the sound of heaven and earth exploding, the two's fists constantly collided. Bang, bang, bang. The world exploded, and the earth sank. The world within millions of miles trembled. The power of the two's eruption was too widespread. The people of the 3 factions retreated far away, not daring to enter the center of this terrifying battle. Clang, clang, clang. This was a battle of physical bodies. Every time Yi Xian and Old Demon Northern Immortal collided, it would end in a draw. However, both of them were fighting with their full strength, and they had no intention of retreating at all. A large amount of blood drifted out between the two of them. Chapter 1480. Bang. The first punch could shatter the sun and moon, the second punch could shatter the galaxy, the third punch could overturn the universe, the fourth punch could suppress the primal chaos. Heaven and earth exploded and the earth sank. Every time Yi Xian punched out, the void would explode. The resplendent and domineering fist lights continued to blast towards Old Demon Northern Mang. Old Demon Biming was also doing his best to counterattack. Demonic energy surged from his body as his pair of demonic fists smashed towards Yi Xian with all his might. The two of them fought without any regard for their lives. In this crazy exchange of blows, both of them suffered quite a bit of damage. Let's see how long you can last. Dang! Old Demon Northern Mang roared as his fist smashed into Yi Xian's chest. Large amounts of blood flowed out from the corner of Yi Xian's mouth. You still have a long way to go. Yi Xian fiercely roared as he similarly punched Old Devil Baimang's body. Fine cracks appeared on his body as a strand of blood flowed out from his body. What kind of joke was this? The attack symbol art was a great taboo technique that Eternal Shadow had passed down to Yi Xian. It was known as the third greatest offensive technique of all time. Although Old Demon Northern Mang's cultivation was much higher than Yi Xian's, the attack symbol art was too terrifying. Naturally, he had suffered considerable injuries. Bang! The battle between the two of them happened in a flash. After exchanging punches, they were both sent flying. Large amounts of blood flowed down from the void. However, both of them were heavily injured this time. Thus, they did not immediately start fighting again. Above the dome, a confrontation took place. Regardless of whether it was Yi Xian or Old Devil Biming, both of them were panting heavily. Large amounts of blood flowed out from the corners of their mouths, and their fists were badly mutilated. Drops of blood continuously flowed out from their fists, causing people to feel extremely terrified at first glance. After exchanging such terrifying blows, both of them were under a terrifying pressure. Because each of their attacks was a matter of life and death, neither of them dared to be careless. Brat, you've already used 10% of your strength, but I've only used 70%. Old Demon Northern Mang grinned cruelly. His devil arts were enough to shake the heavens and earth. A terrifying devil mist rose from his body, constantly healing his injuries. However, Old Demon Northern Mang's eyes were sinister and vicious. When he looked at Yi Xian, his gaze was filled with killing intent. On the other hand, Yi Xian did not have any injuries on his body. This was because he had taken advantage of Old Demon Northern Mang. The Nirvana battle armor had allowed his body to remain unharmed. However, this was only on the surface. This is the fundamental strength of the Immortal Realm. What is the Immortal Realm? The chaotic universe is indestructible, and the Immortal Realm exists forever. If you don't enter the Immortal Realm, you will never understand this principle. Today, I will let you know the true terror of the Immortal Realm. I will let your soul scatter between heaven and earth. Old Demon Northern Mang laughed maniacally. The spiritual energy roaming between heaven and earth whizzed over and constantly healed his injured physical body. His aura was also rising again. His might was simply terrifying to the extreme. You are really a joke. Seeing Old Demon Northern Mang absorbing the spiritual energy between heaven and earth, Yi Xian really laughed. Old Demon Northern Mang was simply displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. Tribulation Transcender devour the heavens. In the next moment, Yi Xian laughed sinisterly. An extremely terrifying black mist rose from his body, and a furious roar sounded out. Yi Xian opened his mouth wide, and a suction force that was like a giant whale drinking water exploded out. The spiritual energy that was originally roaming between heaven and earth instantly became violent. What? It was as if the 9 heavenly galaxies were hanging upside down, as if the waves of primal chaos were surging over. The spiritual energy within tens of thousands of kilometers instantly became a vacuum. A resplendent river of spiritual energy condensed and crazily surged towards Yi Xian. The river of spiritual energy surged violently and was swallowed into Yi Xian's stomach in an extremely terrifying manner. The spiritual energy that Old Demon Northern Mang was absorbing was directly plundered by Yi Xian. Old demon Northern Mang was unable to absorb even the slightest bit of spiritual energy. Demonic heaven-devouring art? Such a terrifying scene instantly stunned old demon Northern Mang. His face instantly turned pale. He simply couldn't accept this situation and didn't dare to believe what he was seeing. But this wasn't the end. How terrifying was the profound meaning of the Calamity Transcender technique and the demonic heaven-devouring art, plundering the world and devouring all living beings. When these two devouring techniques were combined into one, the devouring power that appeared was simply unimaginable. Rumble. The spiritual energy within millions of miles of heaven and earth was completely sucked dry. All of it turned into a river of spiritual energy that was swallowed by Yi Xian. The boundless earth sank in a terrifying manner. The vegetation on the earth turned into ashes. Naturally, the life force that was born within it was not spared by Yi Xian. Chapter 1481. Mountains were collapsing and the world was cracking. The combination of the two devouring techniques was too terrifying. It could devour everything around it to heal the injuries it suffered. Yi Xian's injuries were recovering at a terrifying rate. This was also the terrifying aspect of the Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art. Otherwise, these two techniques would not be called supreme techniques. Are you a monster? In the next moment, old demon Northern Mang screamed in horror and his face turned pale. However, he regretted it as soon as he said this because the word monster did not apply to Yi Xian. Old demon Northern Mang no longer had any words to express his current feelings. He was simply shocked by Yi Xian's methods, and a heavy feeling rose in his heart. Go die! Old demon Northern Mang roared in horror. He no longer wanted to guess who Yi Xian was or why he had so many supreme techniques. There were also some terrifying techniques that he had never heard of before. He only wanted to kill Yi Xian as soon as possible and completely eradicate this threat. Strange. Horrifying. Palpitating. No words could express what old demon Northern Mang was feeling at this moment, but he knew very well that if he did not kill Yi Xian today, he would definitely die in Yi Xian's hands in the future. Boom. Old demon Northern Mang rushed forward because he could not give Yi Xian the chance to continue devouring. If he waited until Yi Xian recovered to his peak state, it would be even more difficult to kill Yi Xian. Die. It had to be said that old demon Northern Mang was about to open the fourth heaven gate. His methods were indeed terrifying. Even though he had been injured by Yi Xian, the power he erupted with was not weak. Bang! Yi Xian raised his fist and directly collided with old Devil Bei Mang. The two of them once again crazily fought, but this time, old Devil Bei Mang had clearly made up his mind. He was fighting with his life on the line, only wanting to kill Yi Xian. Clang! Old demon Northern Mang had gone completely berserk. His eyes had even turned scarlet red. At this moment, he no longer held back and used all of his fierce and murderous techniques. All he wanted to do was to annihilate Yi Xian as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was not a clay puppet. Although his cultivation was not as high as old demon Northern Mang's, it was still too early for old demon Northern Mang to kill him. The two of them madly attacked each other, and it was impossible to determine the victor. At this moment, Yi Xian was finally able to conclude one thing. Although he was at a disadvantage against old demon Bai Ming, he was still in an invincible position. This also meant that his cultivation was indeed strong enough to deal with an immortal realm expert who had opened the third gate of heaven. The battle between the two was too intense, which shocked the people from the three sections. Not many people were paying attention to the battle between the Goddess Sect Master and Dark North Sect Master. The heavens collapsed and the earth split apart while the mountains and rivers were obliterated. This battle affected an area of a myriad of kilometers, causing the ground to be covered in desolation while the sky was blasted apart and repaired. The winds and clouds in the heavens and the earth surged violently, and the imposing aura that shook the heavens, the earth, the mountains, and the rivers was too intense. Bang! Ah! Suddenly, a terrifying explosion resounded, accompanied by a painful wail. An indescribably terrifying aura shrouded the entire area. The Goddess Sect Master spurted out blood and was sent flying. Her beautiful body was smashed into pieces, and a large amount of blood dyed her white clothes red. Die! Boom! Dark North Sect Master suddenly appeared in front of the Goddess Sect Master with a small cauldron in his hand. The small cauldron was shining mysteriously, and this mysterious light seemed to have given Dark North Sect Master an extremely terrifying power that the Goddess Sect Master could not resist. Bang! One strike. It was just one strike, and this strike was launched by Dark North Sect Master with the small cauldron. It landed heavily on the Goddess Sect Master's body, severely injuring her to the brink of death. A large amount of blood gushed out from her body as she fell down. Dao friend, save me. After suffering a fatal blow, the Goddess Sect Master cried for help from Yixian. This also made Yixian, who was in a frenzied battle with old demon Baiming, slightly change his expression. He activated the power of time and extended his 5 fingers toward the Goddess Sect Master. Swoosh! Under the influence of the power of time, the Goddess Sect Master was instantly rescued by Yixian. Yixian brought the Goddess Sect Master away from the battlefield in an instant and only stopped after retreating for 10,000 miles. Silence! Silence! A deathly silence. No one expected that the Goddess Sect Master, who clearly had the upper hand, would suddenly be defeated by Dark North Sect Master. She even almost died at his hands. If not for Yixian's timely rescue, the Goddess Sect Master would not even have a corpse left. Heaven, shattering, cauldron? Yixian narrowed his eyes and spat out these words one by one. A trace of astonishment flashed across his eyes as he looked at Dark North Sect Master. On the other side, Dark North Sect Master was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He dragged the heaven-shattering cauldron with one hand while panting heavily. However, the smile on his face was extremely sinister and filled with pride. Taoist Dark North, let's work together and kill them. Old Demon Baiming instantly appeared before Dark North Sect Master and directly invited him to work together. He could not kill Yixian at all right now. As long as Dark North Sect Master worked with him, he could truly get rid of this troublesome Yixian. He can use the heaven-shattering cauldron. I wasn't paying attention. The Goddess Sect Master clutched her chest as she spoke weakly. Blood kept flowing from the corner of her mouth. Clearly, she had suffered unimaginable injuries after being hit by the cauldron twice in a row. Even the Goddess Sect Master did not expect Dark North Sect Master to be able to use this legendary Chaos Supreme Treasure. If she had known earlier, she would not have been so careless. Ha! Although Dark North Sect Master's face was pale and bloodless, he laughed maniacally with the cauldron in his hand. The cauldron shone with a mysterious luster in his palm. Just looking at it would cause one's heart to tremble. Even one's soul would tremble violently. This was proof that the heaven-shattering cauldron was indeed extremely terrifying. You guys are underestimating your sect master too much. Why do you think your sect master is so patient? As the Dark North sect leader spoke, he stared fixedly at Yixian and the Heaven Maiden sect leader. A trace of ridicule appeared on the corners of his mouth. The heaven-shattering cauldron is a Chaos Supreme treasure. Your sect master has been studying it for many years. Although I haven't managed to comprehend the profoundness within it, I have found a way to use it. Today, all of you will die under this Chaos Supreme treasure. Dark North Sect Master's killing intent was torrential as he roared at Yixian and the others. Let's retreat quickly. Neither of us can stop this heaven-shattering cauldron. The Goddess Sect Master spoke with a trembling voice. She had just experienced the terrifying might of this Chaos Supreme treasure. Now that she was severely injured, all she wanted to do was to retreat. How could she be a match for Dark North Sect Master? Furthermore, Yixian was no longer at his peak state. In the battle with Dark North Sect Master, he had also expended a huge amount of his cultivation base. The current situation was extremely unfavorable for both of them. Taoist Dark North Sect Master, let's join hands and kill them. Dark North Sect Master said coldly. He believed that Dark North Sect Master would definitely choose to work with him. After all, only by working together would they truly be able to kill Yixian and the Goddess Sect Master. Alright, then you can die first. Bang! Dark North Sect Master sneered. The heaven-shattering cauldron suddenly disappeared from his hand and reappeared in front of Dark North Sect Master, ruthlessly smashing down on his demonic body. Chapter 1482. Wah! Old Devil Biming spat out a mouthful of blood as a large hole appeared in his indestructible body. He then let out a shrill roar. No one had expected that Sect Master Biming would choose not to cooperate with Old Devil Biming and instead launch a sneak attack on him. He even wanted to use this opportunity to kill Old Devil Biming. Sky Demon Disintegration. It had to be said that Old Devil Biming was indeed quite capable. Even after suffering a blow from the heaven-shattering cauldron, he still managed to survive. He turned into a wisp of black mist and instantly disappeared. This Sky Demon Disintegration technique stunned Sect Master Biming. I will remember today's matter. When I open the fourth heaven gate, I will definitely settle this with all of you. Old Devil Biming fled, but his enraged and resentful voice rang out. It had always been Old Devil Biming who schemed against others, but now he had been schemed against one after another. Not only did he fail to snatch the heaven-shattering cauldron, but he also escaped with serious injuries. This made him so angry that he was about to explode. However, the current situation did not allow him to stay. He could only flee with his injuries and wait for Yi Xian, Sect Master Biming, and the others to settle the score. Leave quickly. The Fairy Sect Master warned Yi Xian. She was even more fearful of the small cauldron in Sect Master Biming's hand. Even Old Devil Biming could not resist it. Although it was a sneak attack, it also proved that the heaven-shattering cauldron was too terrifying. Leave? Where should I go? You can come in now. Yi Xian gave a strange smile as a treasured gourd appeared in his hand. He gently removed the cork and aimed it at the Fairy Sect Master. A terrifying suction force immediately acted on her body. Are you crazy? What are you doing? The Fairy Sect Master did not expect Yi Xian to attack her at this moment. This made her furious. She could not understand why Yi Xian would do such a thing. Unfortunately, Yi Xian could not resist at all. She was already seriously injured and was directly sucked into the gourd. Yi Xian casually put away the treasured gourd and looked at Sect Master Biming with a smile. You? The Dark North Sect leader frowned as bewilderment flashed through his eyes. He never thought that Yi Xian would actually make a move against the goddess sect leader at such a time. This was simply unbelievable to him. But in the next moment, Hierarch Dark North regained his composure. A cruel smile appeared on his face because no matter what Yi Xian's goal was, he would still die in the end. He had been waiting for this day for 100,000 years, all for the sake of eliminating all threats in one fell swoop. All of this was part of his plan. Yi Daoyu is truly capable. You instigated a war between the three sects, allowing the northern region's celestial court to rise to prominence. Of the three great sects, I am the only one left. Even old demon Northern Mang was used by you. Your scheming and shrewdness is truly admirable. Sect Master Dark North held the small cauldron in his hand as he loudly praised Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. His smile was very elegant as he slowly walked towards Dark North Sect Master. Yi Xian smiled and said, in terms of scheming and shrewdness, I am naturally not as good as Taoist Dark North. The war between the three sects has been in a stalemate for 100,000 years, but Taoist Dark North was still able to endure and use the heaven-shattering cauldron at the last moment. In my opinion, you can be considered a formidable character. As he watched Yi Xian continuously walk towards him, the Dark North sect leader's expression abruptly turned gloomy as he let out an explosive shout. Although he had the heaven-shattering cauldron in his hand and believed that he would be the final victor, for some reason he felt uneasy after seeing Yi Xian's calmness. Are you afraid of me? Yi Xian smiled evilly and stopped 10 meters away from the Dark North Hierarch. However, his smile caused the Dark North Hierarch to fly into a rage out of humiliation, as if Yi Xian had hit the nail on the head. Afraid of you? Dark North Sect Master coldly rebuked. What a joke. I have the heaven-shattering cauldron in my hand. Killing you is as easy as pie. Yi Xian pretended to be surprised. Then, he crooked his finger at Dark North Sect Master and said, "Then I would like to see how you kill me with the heaven-shattering cauldron." "You are courting death." Dark North Sect Master's expression flickered, but he didn't make a move because he knew his situation very well. He only had one chance to make a move. If he didn't succeed, he would definitely be in danger. In the previous battle with the Fairy Sect Master, he had always been at a disadvantage and had even suffered from the Fairy Sect Master's vicious attacks. He had already suffered heavy injuries. Although these injuries weren't serious, they still affected his battle prowess. Moreover, he had already seen Yi Xian's methods. Even if he was at his peak, he wouldn't dare to say that he could kill Yi Xian. The most important problem wasn't these, but that he could only use the heaven-shattering cauldron one last time. He had used it once to defeat the Fairy Sect Master and once again to severely injure Northern Mang. Now, he only had one last chance to use the heaven-shattering cauldron, so he didn't dare to be careless. Although Dark North Sect Master hadn't comprehended the profundities of the heaven-shattering cauldron after obtaining it for so many years, he had found a way to activate this Chaos Supreme treasure. However, this method of activation had a huge price. Every time he activated it, he would have to consume his life essence. This was also why he waited until the last moment to use the heaven-shattering cauldron. He wanted to eliminate all the hidden dangers in one fell swoop. If he could use the heaven-shattering cauldron without restraint, he would have already dominated the entire northern region and wouldn't have let the war between the three sects go on for 100,000 years. Now, he could only use the heaven-shattering cauldron one last time, so he was extremely cautious. "What? You don't dare to make a move?" Yi Xian leisurely strolled towards the Dark North Hierarch. With every step he took, the sound of his footsteps could be heard. This kind of footsteps gave the Dark North Hierarch a great deal of pressure. What's going on? Why is it like this? What am I afraid of? Kill him? Shouldn't I kill him? Looking at Yi Xian walking towards him step by step, Dark North Sect Master's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. He couldn't stop himself from retreating as he roared madly in his heart. Dark North Sect Master didn't know what was wrong with him. Everything was going according to his plan, and the heaven-shattering cauldron was his greatest trump card. He could take Yi Xian's life with just one strike, but the fear in his heart prevented him from making a move. The source of this fear was Yi Xian. Dark North Sect Master was very sure of his feeling. It was as if there was something on Yi Xian that restrained him. If he made a move, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.